Welcome to the NWO Sports Podcast. Here's your host, Logan Bailey.
Welcome to the NWO Sports Podcast Football Edition, brought to you by our primary sponsor, 3Chord. I'm your host, Logan Bailey, and joined today by Keith Brown, AJ Fairchild, and Tony Fairchild. So, guys, it is officially round one of the OHSAA football playoffs. How excited are you guys for this week?
I'm jacked. It's playoff time, baby.
Tee it up. Let's go. Yeah. We're ready.
Absolutely.
Not only that, but it is 70 degrees outside, and I believe Friday it's supposed to be like 70s again. So
it could have a little wet weather, but as of right now, it's supposed to be mid-70s at kickoff.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking roof time, boys. It wasn't for the rain.
Yeah, right.
So if it's going to stay dry, week 11 being on the roof.
Oh my gosh!
Wow. But really, I mean, honestly, you can't ask for much more being round one of the playoffs. So usually it's cold, or we get more rain, which could be a possibility.
Right.
But nonetheless, we're all excited here at NWO Sports. So let's go ahead. Let's look at how we did for last week's picks. The Fairchilds of AJ and Tony both finished first this week with 15-3 records. So congratulations to them. Everyone else finished 14-4 for the week. For the year, Matthew remains in first with 147-37 record. Logan in second with 145-39 record. Keith in third with 144-40 record. Tony in fourth with 142-42 record. Fifth is AJ with 138-46 record. And sixth is Bryce with 137-47 record. So AJ and Tony, I'll give you the spotlight for winning last week.
Hey, I'm not last.
Sorry, Bryce.
But I'm not last.
Spotlight. We picked one game different than everybody else. So that's my spotlight. That's my moment of fame there.
Hey, and I'll have to explain Bryce's strategy once the picks for this week come in, because they're dandy, that's for sure. But nonetheless, if you guys hear a humming in the background, that is because we're at none other than the great Bat and Stevens Body Shop, and we have a tow truck outside right now, so you can hear the humming in just a little bit.
He's been here since I got here, so he's been here for about 40 minutes. He's not compacting cars. We have confirmed that.
We'll see how long that lasts here. All right. Well, let's get into some game recaps here. We got a special guest coming on later in the show. So let's kick it off with NWO Sports Game of the Week. And we are looking at Bluffton at Columbus Grove. And Columbus Grove came away with this big win here, 14-7. This was a battle of two great Northwest Conference teams for the league title. As I said before going into the game, it's always tough going into Clymer Stadium and trying to come away with a win. Keith and I have been there in the past when Tenora made it. That place gets loud, it gets rowdy, and that's definitely one of the most intimidating venues in Northwest Ohio as far as places to play for football. This game was close the entire way through, with Columbus Grove leading just 7-0 at halftime. Both teams would score a touchdown just once in the fourth quarter. Total offense, Columbus Grove had 296 with 241 rushing. Bluffton 175 yards with 103 rushing. Turnover battle, Columbus Grove had 0, Bluffton had 0, so a very clean game. And you look across the board, their stats were nearly identical, and this was definitely a good defensive battle. Two hard-nosed defenses going at it. Top players to note from Columbus Grove. Running back Trent Barraza, he was just recently named the Northwest Conference Offensive Player of the Year, just a sophomore too. So again, he's a tank, 29 carries, 179 rushing yards, 2 rushing touchdowns. Quarterback Landon Best was good for 5 of 10 passing with 50%. 55 passing yards, 12 carries for 47 rushing yards, and wide receiver Zach Reynolds, 4 receptions, 56 receiving yards. So guys, thoughts on the Bluffton at Columbus Grove game?
Oh, you called it. I mean, you picked Columbus Grove to win it. I think we all went against Columbus Grove except for you. But I tell you what, like you said, Columbus Grove is a tough place to go in and win, and Coach Schaefer took care of business there with the boys.
Yeah, for me, this is one of those I probably picked with my heart instead of my head. It's like, hey, Bluffton's got all these shutouts, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, Bluffton. But then you fail to realize, hey, Coach Schaefer, Clymer Stadium, winning program, never loses at home, especially when it's a must win. I heard a post-game interview with Coach Schaefer. My gosh, he was fired up. He's just one of those coaches you hear, even though you don't know him personally, you're like, I want to play for that guy right there. He made me want to get pads on. He was ready. He was fired up after the game. So, but yeah, Columbus Grove did what they had to do, and quality win again by Coach Schaefer and Columbus Grove.
Yeah, anytime you come up against a team that's only given up, how many points has Bluffton given up in the last 6 weeks or 7
They had
weeks?
7 straight shutouts going in.
7 weeks of shutouts. Anytime you can come in and put up points alone is awesome, and to come away with the win is just icing on the cake. I mean, that's awesome to see that in week 10. So they're getting everything firing at the absolute perfect time right now.
And not only that, but Bluffton going into this game had only just given up 42 points for the entire year.
Yep.
And that's including this week, but very impressive defense from them. But on the flip side, I just believe in Columbus Grove right now. They're playing the best ball of the year right now, and it really shows. They're very well coached. And it was just kind of funny because I was really feeling the love from all the Columbus Grove people. Andrew Coles, the defensive coordinator, reached out and said he's glad that I picked them. And then, there's just a couple other people as well throughout the day that have reached out and said that I was the only one that picked them. But, I believe in Columbus Grove and the Bulldogs right now, really playing well.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the Columbus Grove and the Bluffton that Columbus Grove scored in the second, and then Bluffton come back and scored, early in the fourth. Tied the game up, and Columbus Grove was able to push one more across with Barraza.
All right, we're going to move on to the next game, another big conference title game, and that would be Napoleon at Southview. Southview came away with a win in this one, 20-14, and this game was for the Northern Lakes League Cardinal Division Championship. Southview actually led 20-0 at halftime. Napoleon would not quit, though. In the second half, they outscored Southview 14-0, and they came up just short. Looking at total offense, Southview had 216 yards, 142 rushing. Napoleon had 256 yards, 228 passing. Looking at the turnover battle, Southview had 1 interception. Napoleon had 3 interceptions. Looking at some top players of note from Napoleon, wide receiver Parker Woods, 7 receptions, 152 receiving yards, 1 receiving touchdown. Wide receiver Devin Dietrich, 4 receptions, 43 receiving yards, and a receiving touchdown. Defensive back Trey Rubenstein, 7 tackles. And again, this kid is a highlight reel every week. I don't know if you guys saw this yet, but I'm going to insert it in.
Yeah, that's
he had an
amazing.
interception, another unbelievable interception this week. Basically jumping up, kind of snagging it one-handed.
One of those Beckham catches, like he was going back towards the goal line. He just put the paw up and brought it in one-handed.
There was a picture that I don't know if it was in the Toledo Blade or it was some newspaper, but it was like poster material. He was up, like Keith said, it was like almost Odell Beckham, and he just snatched it out of the air. But that's, like the second or third time we've seen that in the last couple of weeks, and he's probably got about 5 of them for the year. Yeah. Just unbelievable. So guys, what are your thoughts on the Napoleon at Southview game?
Quick question. Did he not play offense at all this week?
He did. I just kind of included
Nothing crazy like he's been doing.
Right, correct.
Because 288 yards passing, I'm assuming he was in there somewhere. Anytime you have Trey Rubenstein on the field, he's a key player to get the ball to. But it is nice to see them spreading the love a little bit on that offense.
And there was another good catch, Logan. I don't know if it was Parker Woods or Devin Dietrich, but they had another fantastic catch at the goal line in the corner of the end zone. Like I said, I apologize. I should have looked, but I don't remember which one it was. But Coach Swearing, the boys didn't quit, down 20-0 at half, come back and make it 20-14. Still heading to the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, 3 interceptions is definitely going to hurt when you get into a game like, a tight game like that. But you know what? It's nice to see Napoleon continue to fight, come back, and just come up a little bit short. But I was kind of surprised they threw for 228 yards. I mean, Napoleon typically runs the ball pretty well, and most of their yards were passing. So.
And that's something we've seen throughout the year. There's some games they may go out and they'll run the ball for 200-300 yards. There's some games where they'll come out and they'll pass. But I think that just goes to show that they're willing to adapt and game plan specifically for each team in order to give Napoleon the best shot to win each week. But I tell you what, we talk about some of the receiving cores in the area. I think Napoleon's, you got to mention theirs too.
Yeah, definitely.
With Dietrich and Wood and Rubenstein and some of those other guys, they're pretty athletic. And as long as Espinoza's delivering the ball and taking care of it, they can be pretty deadly on that offensive passing game.
Yep.
Let's move on to the next game. Looking at the Green Meadows Conference, Paulding at Wayne Trace, and this was absolutely a huge game. This is a rivalry between the two, actually the Black Swamp Bowl, and Paulding came away with this one with a 14-13 win. This huge rivalry win for Paulding was their first against Wayne Trace since 2010. They made it the first winning season for Paulding since 2008. This was the first winning record in conference play since 1997 and their first playoff appearance ever, excluding COVID, which you can't really throw COVID in because everybody
made it.
So,
right.
what a season from Paulding and Coach Menzie over there doing a terrific job this season. Total offense, Paulding had only just 187 yards, 115 rushing. Wayne Trace had 228 yards with 179 passing. Turnover battle, Wayne Trace had 3 with 3 interceptions. Paulding had 2 with 2 interceptions. Some top players from Paulding, defensive back Jesse Schaefer, 6 tackles, 2 interceptions. He had 1 100-yard interception return for a touchdown. Running back Kobe Ford, 19 carries, 44 rushing yards with 1 rushing touchdown. Linebacker Jack Woods, my man, 9 tackles. He led the team with 1 tackle for loss. And from Wayne Trace, running back Tucker Antone, 18 carries, 69 rushing yards, 2 rushing touchdowns. He had 3 receptions for 41 receiving yards. Another hard-nosed kid. He continues to come in week after week and produce for that Wayne Trace offense. Wide receiver Hudson Myers, 5 receptions, 35 receiving yards. And wide receiver Tyler Head, 3 receptions, 67 receiving yards. So thoughts on the Black Swamp Bowl?
Black Swamp Bowl. This, for those that aren't familiar with this game, is equivalent to Defiance Napoleon, Tenora Ayersville. It has all that same intensity, sometimes if not more.
Yeah.
Especially during this game. This is basically a playoff game right here. Winner goes, loser goes home. And good to see Paulding and Coach Menzie come out on top there just for the program he's been building for 2 years, and just to celebrate this win at Wayne Trace probably meant a lot to him, the kids, and the community of Paulding.
And you look at it, 2 schools separated by 15 minutes?
If that.
Not even that.
So they're literally
5 miles maybe.
They're literally right in each other's backyard. So, a lot of these kids, they grow up together. They're in the communities together. So there's just a lot of rivalry between these two.
It's fantastic to see Paulding finally get a big win. They've been doing well this season, but we kind of talked about like the combined wins of the teams they've played have been kind of questionable. But Wayne Trace, we played them pretty tough. That was a hard-fought game for Tenora. So Wayne Trace definitely was not on the bottom end of the GMC, and Paulding was able to come away and knock them off. That's a fantastic leap for their program. Looking at the turnover battle, this one actually really does make a difference here, because a 100-yard interception return for a touchdown, that's the massive difference in your game right there, and potentially it was the game-deciding factor. You take that 14-point swing, 7 points away from Paulding, and give them to Wayne Trace. It's not even a competition anymore, because your game changes drastically. Right. And we've talked about it all season. The turnovers for Wayne Trace, they're both for and against, have just been astronomical. I would love to see what their season stats are for turnovers. They've got to be 30, 40 turnovers. They average about five turnovers a game.
I don't know. Their games are always, there's a lot of turnovers
combined, right?
So, yeah, it's just interesting to see Paulding Wayne Trace play, because it's always a up in the air kind of game. Just flip a coin, who's going to win that one.
AG, you said it. Wayne Trace played Tenora tough. They played Antwerp tough. Mm-hmm. They played Ayersville. So you look at that, and yet they lost by 1 point to Ayersville. They lost to Tenora. Everybody questions that. And then they played Antwerp tough, and lost by 3. So when Paulding comes in and knocks beats Wayne Trace, that's not that's a big, like you said, that's a big deal. Yep. That's a big deal. They played everybody tough in the conference, just couldn't come away with a win. And once again, Wayne Trace played tough and couldn't squeak out that win. So it's unfortunate for Wayne Trace, but congratulations to Paulding.
It's just kind of ironic, because both quality teams, but they've struggled to finish in the second half. Paulding, they had Ayersville on the ropes. They were up 17-0 at halftime, and they let that lead slip behind them. Wayne Trace, again, like you said, they took Tenora down to the wire. They took Ayersville down to the wire. It's just unfortunate, but at the same time, hats off to Paulding Panthers, because they got the job done at the end of the day. And this game was the one that mattered the most, because, like Keith said, it was win or go home. Yep. So this could potentially be a huge program-changing win for the Panthers.
Arguably the best season Paulding's ever had. First time they've ever made playoffs, first winning record in any conference since before any of these kids were even born, which is awesome to see. They've got a program that's finally building, and I just hope that they continue to build on it next year, because I would love to see the GMC be competitive top to bottom.
All right, let's move on to the next game. Look at the NWO. And this is another exciting game. That was Evergreen at Delta, and Evergreen won this game 15-12. What a huge win to send Evergreen out within the 2023 season. It put them at 4-6, and they actually finished 17th for Division 6 Region 22, just missing the playoffs by 1 spot. So, just right on the edge. Delta jumped out in this one early to a 12-0 halftime lead. Evergreen made their halftime adjustments and scored 15 points in the fourth quarter to eventually win the game. Those points were thanks to a 58-yard Riley Dunbar punt return for a touchdown, a game-winning touchdown pass from Bolger to Robertson to seal the game. Total offense, Evergreen had 114, 75 rushing. Delta had 174 yards, 160 passing. Turnover battle, Evergreen had 1 fumble, Delta had 1 fumble. And some top players from Evergreen. Quarterback Bryce Bolger, 14 of 18, 78%, 36 passing yards, 1 passing touchdown. Running back Max Mossing, 16 carries, 91 rushing yards, 1 fumble. Wide receiver Colton Robertson, 5 receptions, 34 receiving yards, 1 receiving touchdown. And linebacker J.J. Johnson led the team in tackles with 9.5. And unfortunately, we did not have any Delta stats. So, guys, thoughts on this Evergreen at Delta matchup?
Well, I'll tell you what, you look at those stats, and wasn't really an exciting game, I don't think, to watch. 114 yards for Evergreen, 174 for Delta. Not a whole lot going on offensively. So definitely a defensive battle. But that punt return, we talk about special teams, and there it is again. Special teams comes through and makes a big play for Evergreen.
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much said everything I would say right there with the turnover. But, congratulations to Evergreen getting a win again in the NWAL. It's tough, so congratulations.
Yeah, Evergreen, just 3 straight years, 3 different head coaches, and big win for the program right there. Finished one position out of the playoffs, finished 17th. But yeah, like Tony said, a heck of a defensive struggle. Either the defensive came to play or the offenses didn't, one or the other.
Right.
So, big win there for Evergreen and Coach Bach.
And I think at the end of the day, this win will be huge for Evergreen, kind of jump-starting them into next season. Evergreen is just, like you said, Keith, they've had 3 coaches in 3 years. If they could just get some stability, I think they would be – they've always been right on the outside looking in for things. They've always been 17, 18 seed of trying to get into the playoffs, Give it a couple years, and I really do. I think Evergreen's a good program. And we talked, when I interviewed Coach Karchner, Evergreen's got the facilities. They've got the turf. They've upgraded their locker rooms and the weight room and everything else. So it's a nice facility. It's very enticing to some athletes there. But I'm rooting for Evergreen to see how they do in the next couple of years.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate to have 3 coaches in 3 years. You step back from the outside looking in, going, "What's going on? Why are they turning the coaches over?" There's got to be something going on. If they have the facilities and all that kind of stuff, you got to wonder what else is going on. But yeah, the sad thing is they play in the NWOL, so they're playing in one of the toughest conferences in Northwest Ohio, if not the toughest conference in Northwest Ohio. Yep.
All right, let's move on to the next game. Another NWAL matchup. Archbold at Bryan. Archbold came away big with this one, 42-21. Archbold dominated this one, going up 28-7 at halftime. Looking at total yards, Archbold had 356 with 280 rushing. Bryan had 288 with 145 passing. Turnover battle, Archbold had 0. Bryan had 1 interception. Some top players from Archbold, running back Lucas Dominic, 24 carries, 143 rushing yards, good for 6 yards a carry, 2 rushing touchdowns, 2 receptions, and 23 receiving yards. Quarterback Cade Brenner, 10 of 22, 45%, 67 passing yards, 11 carries, 41 rushing yards, and 1 rushing touchdown. And running back Jack Hirsch, 6 carries, 31 rushing yards, and 3 rushing touchdowns. On the flip side, from Bryan, quarterback Jace Kepler was 14 of 26, 54%, 168 passing yards with 8 carries, 84 rushing yards, and 2 rushing touchdowns. Running back Sam Harold, 14 carries, 76 rushing yards, 1 rushing touchdown. He also had 6 receptions for 61 receiving yards, and wide receiver Maddox Langendorfer had 3 receptions for 32 receiving yards. So thoughts on the Archbold at Bryan game?
Can't say I'm really surprised by the score coming out of this one. Archbold's definitely kind of, in my opinion, the undisputed number 2. And, after Liberty Center beat them earlier in the season, it was kind of like almost pushed Archbold down into the conference with the rest of the teams, kind of made them blend in a little bit. But I still think Archbold's way above and beyond the other teams. I think 1 is way up there with Liberty Center. 2 is still way up there. But then the rest of the conference is just struggling for that number 3 spot, really. I think Archbold's a lot better than what Liberty Center made them look, and they continue to prove it when they're playing teams like Bryan, even Patrick Henry. They played well. Like they're a very solid all around team, and it's going to be fun to continue to watch them.
Yeah, this game featured 2 of the better offenses, 2 of the better quarterbacks, 2 of the best running backs in the league, and just going off what AJ said, outside of that Liberty Center loss, Archbold basically, in my opinion, probably the second best team in the area.
Yeah.
I mean, without a doubt. It's just, unfortunately, you just ran into a buzzsaw at Liberty Center, and you continued on your way to march into the playoffs roaring like a lion.
That's one thing too. Looking at Archbold, they're just a very complete team. You look at offense, defense, special teams. They've got all three aspects of the game down to science because they go out there and they produce. They're efficient. They're very well coached by Coach Dominic, and they take care of business. And you look back at the Liberty Center game. You take away a couple plays here and there, and that game could have been a lot closer than what it was. But I think Archbold, they've learned from that game. They've corrected those mistakes. They've coached them up. And Archbold's going to be one heck of a hard out come playoff time.
Yes.
Yeah. And you look at Lucas Dominic come in, took the rock this week, but Jack Hurst, the dude he's lightning in a bottle, guys. He touched the ball. He had 6 carries and 3 touchdowns. He's returning punts for touchdowns, and he's just an awesome athlete to have in your, kind of the 1-2 punch with him and Dominic.
Yeah, Logan sent us the stats on Archbold because we asked it last week during the podcast of special teams touchdowns, and Logan sent that to us. I should have wrote it down, and again I didn't. But wasn't it like 8 or 9 special teams touchdowns, kickoffs, returns, something like that?
I think they had like 4 or 5, maybe.
Was it?
But that was just between Hurst and Chase Miller.
That was nuts.
But they're so explosive. That's the thing. You watch play after play, and even if they didn't have those touchdowns, just yardage in general, it's nothing for them to take a punt return 40, 50, 60 yards. And we talk about special teams playing such a huge role. That's debilitating if you're on the other end of that.
That's like 2 other weapons that you have: offense. And then you got your punt return and your kickoff return teams too. You've got to just look out for.
Yeah, it's like with Sonora. We talk about their special teams. Their kickoff team. They have great coverage. Yeah. Do a good job of getting down there and making open field tackles. And then you got Jack Hurst here, who's obviously he's definitely squirrely because he's getting yardage. And when you think you're going to punt, I'll flip the field, and he gets a 40-yard return. Yep. It's like, well, you didn't flip the field like you thought you were going to. So
yeah, I think Archbold's kind of like a sleeping giant going into playoffs. They're very good. They've just been kind of shadowed a little bit by Liberty Center in the NWAL. I think they have a very good potential to gain some traction in playoffs. I'm not sure where they line up on the bracket. I haven't taken a look at that as far as where they match up against Liberty Center. But they could potentially see another matchup in playoffs here.
Yeah, let me pull up their bracket real quick because I produced some brackets earlier.
Yes. I was trying to find it. I was looking at it earlier, but I can't remember where they line up.
Yeah, so Archbold,
they got to 3 seed. I know that.
Yeah, they're actually in the other half of the bracket. So if they were to meet up with Liberty Center, it would be in the regional final of Division 5, Region 18. But you look at some other tough teams in that region. Coldwater's in there. Coldwater's a tough team. Eastwood is in there. And Coldwater's a 6 seed. 7 seed is Eastwood. 2 seed is Edison. So there's some tough teams there. But I definitely foresee Archbold, making a deep playoff run, and possibly, I would love to see a rematch of Liberty Center and Archbold.
I cannot imagine what that place will be like to see that kind of.
You run it back just a few years ago. We talked about there was part 2 a couple years ago in the playoff. When DJ Newman was there and they had the big Carly Roth kick. And actually, I was listening to that game on the radio because I believe I was at the Eden playoff game at Donnell Stadium in Findlay. Turned the radio on, and what do you know? Liberty Center ended up winning on a walk-off field goal from the girls' soccer player that she took over after they had some injuries. So, yeah, definitely exciting. And that, I feel like that's almost turning into a bigger rivalry year after year because those 2 programs are always top 2 in the NWAL. So, very impressive. Let's move on to the next game. We were looking at Wauseon at Liberty Center, and Liberty Center came away with this one big, 42-0. Liberty Center was up 35-0 at halftime. Total yards, Liberty Center had 441, 295 rushing. Wauseon just 74 yards and 81 passing. So they actually had negative rushing yards. Turnovers, Liberty Center 0, Wauseon 0. Liberty Center, some top players, running back Colton Cruz, 19 carries, 137 rushing yards, 7.7 yards a carry with 3 rushing touchdowns. Quarterback Landon Anstutz had 7 of 10 passing with 70%, 146 passing yards with 1 passing touchdown. So that's good to see out of him, being very efficient when they do throw the ball, because obviously everyone knows Liberty Center loves to run the ball. Wide receiver Colton Chambers, 3 receptions, 78 receiving yards with 1 receiving touchdown. And looking from Wauseon, wide receiver Tyson Rodriguez, 4 receptions, 49 receiving yards. And quarterback Trey Parsons was 7 of 19 for 81 passing yards. So, guys, thoughts on the Wauseon at Liberty Center matchup?
Just Liberty Center is just dominated from week 1, second half of the game versus Sonora all the way through. It's hard to believe. And they don't do it fancy. Everybody knows what they're going to do. They have... Just exaggerating. They have 5 plays in their playbook, and your job is to stop one of those 5 plays and nobody can do it.
Yep, I agree with you 100%, Keith. They know everybody knows Liberty Center's going to line up and try to smack you in the mouth, and okay, stop us. But I think Liberty Center was playing around here. With Amsterd's throwing the ball 7 times or throwing the ball 10 times, 146 yards, and they win 42-0. I think Liberty Center was testing the waters here to make sure that they could throw the ball. Like you kind of said, Logan, kind of developing that passing game.
Even the week before, or maybe 2 weeks ago, he threw 14, 15 times on that crappy Friday night weather. So that was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. I had kind of said something about that. I think Liberty Center definitely has a passing game. They just haven't had to use it. So it's good to see them pulling that out a little bit, kind of testing the waters, making sure that that's something they can fall back on. And obviously they can. They don't have to hold back. So one of the hot takes a couple weeks ago was something about woodshed, taking, I think, Patrick Henry or Arch pull out behind the woodshed. That woodshed has seen a lot of things this season.
There's been a lot of wood being thrown around there.
Yeah.
Amstutz, obviously he's got tons of targets to throw to.
Yeah.
All the Cruz kids and Colton Chambers and just to name a few of them, but so he's got targets to throw the ball to.
And I think from this game, too, I believe from what I was kind of hearing, I think Wasion was giving Liberty Center a little bit of trouble, especially early on. You look at the end of the first quarter, it was tied 0-0.
Yep.
And I'm not sure what they were doing. I didn't get a chance to watch any of the game film, but, Wasion may have been messing around with some things. I don't know, maybe putting 10 guys in the box trying to stop them. But it was working in the first quarter, but obviously second quarter, Liberty Center responded, and they outscored them 35-0, and that's kind of the rest was history after that. But, again, what do you do to stop them? I don't know.
Hopefully we don't find out. Honestly, hopefully they just keep trucking right on to the playoffs.
So definitely going to be one of the favorites to win the region, and we'll talk a little bit more about playoffs later. Next game, Defiance at Ottawa Glandorf. And whoever it was, I think it was Michael Hearn last week, said this game is a trap game. I 110% agreed with him, and we saw it here because this one got really close for the Bulldogs' liking. And Defiance came out with a win 14-10. And we've been saying all season long, Ottawa Glandorf is a much better team than what their record is. And you definitely don't want to play them at the end of the season because I probably could have predicted this, 99 times out of 100 that they're going to play one of these teams and possibly knock them off just the way that they've played. This game was actually tied at half 7-7, and Ottawa Glandorf was actually up 10-7 at the start of the fourth quarter. Total yards, Defiance had 211 with 121 passing. So, Ottawa Glandorf had 100 and I'm not sure what Ottawa Glandorf had. That's not right. But turnovers, looking at the turnover battle, had a couple apiece. Defiance, looking at some top players. Running back, linebacker Abel Rubio had 8 carries for 40 rushing yards with 1 rushing touchdown. He had 14 tackles, which led the team. He had 1 tackle for loss and 1 pass breakup on defense. Defensive back Antonio Lopez had 3 tackles, 2 pass breakups, and he had 1 huge interception to help seal the game. Running back Brogan Castillo, 13 carries, 61 rushing yards with 2 receptions for 41 receiving yards and a receiving touchdown. And quarterback Brett Ziffel was 11 of 16, good for 69%, 121 passing yards with 1 passing touchdown. And then from Ottawa Glandorf, quarterback Peyton Coleman was 21 of 34, good for 62%, 234 passing yards with 1 passing touchdown and 1 interception. Wide receiver Grant Schroeder, 9 receptions, 121 receiving yards, 1 receiving touchdown. And kicker Tyler Hohenbrink nailed a 37-yard field goal. So thoughts from this WBL matchup?
Yeah, I was stunned when I saw the score. Defiance is having some troubles going down the stretch here. Just really kind of surprising me the play that we saw early from Defiance and the way the season started, the way they're coming down the stretch. Just you want to be hitting your stride here, and it looks like Defiance seems to be struggling to get all the pieces on track again. So I'm not really sure what's going on. Hopefully they can right this train and get it rolling, sometime this week and make a deep playoff run.
I believe it was a 4th and 14 play they converted for a 41-yard touchdown to actually propel them to the victory. So they kind of pulled a rabbit out of the hat, Coach Cooper and the Bulldogs did. So, but kudos to them. All it counts is the scoreboard at the end of when it's triple zeros on the scoreboard. So no matter how you get there, but yeah, it's living dangerously.
Yeah, coming away with the win just helps seal the fact that they'll be playing at home again next week, which would be nice for them.
I don't think they are.
I don't think
they're not.
No, they got like a long trip.
Yeah, they do.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Yeah, actually, we can talk about that real quick later on. But some of the travel times are unbelievable.
Ridiculous.
They are
ridiculous.
but that's another
Yeah, hot
topic
take.
later. Right. So let's move on to the next game. Fairview at Ayersville, and this game was close. It went into overtime. Ayersville won 36-28. This win led to a share of the Green Meadows Conference title, and first since 2016 for the Pilots. At halftime, Ayersville led 20-14. Fairview would go on to outscore Ayersville 14-8 in the second half, leading to eventual overtime. Total yards, Ayersville had 378 yards with 312 rushing. Fairview had 390 yards with 273 passing. Turnovers, Ayersville had 4 with 3 interceptions, 1 fumble. Fairview had 2 with 1 fumble and 1 interception. Some key players from Ayersville, Abe Delano had 18 carries, 135 rushing yards, 7.5 yards a carry, 1 rushing touchdown, 3 receptions for 41 receiving yards, and 1 phenomenal receiving touchdown as he was diving all out in the back of the end zone, and he reeled it in one-handed from a long ball from Fishpaw. Running back Garrett McConnell, as a freshman, he's just 5'7", 190, but he carried the ball very well this game. 21 carries, 109 rushing yards, good for 5.2 yards a carry, 2 rushing touchdowns. Good to see him step up and help fill in the role from his injured teammate, Torrin Knieven. That's excellent to see. They had a quality replacement there. Ray Wolfram had 7 carries for 64 rushing yards and 1 rushing touchdown. So Ray's also getting a little bit of touches in the backfield as well. From Fairview, so looking at some top players, quarterback William Zedike, 20 of 42, good for a 48%, 273 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns. He also had 17 carries for 114 rushing yards and 1 rushing touchdown. Wide receiver, defensive back Logan Ollinger, 8 receptions, 119 receiving yards with 1 receiving touchdown. He also had an interception on defense. And wide receiver Gavin Mead, 5 receptions, 58 receiving yards and 1 receiving touchdown. And all I have to say is, sophomore, freshman, these kids can ball out.
Absolutely.
And we keep talking. Fairview's got some things to look excited for in the years to come. So thoughts on the Fairview at Ayersville matchup?
I don't know if this game says a lot about Fairview or kind of speaks, numbers about what's going on with Ayersville and the replacements. If it's a Fairview doing really well, fantastic. It's great to see them continuing to build upon those young guys. Ayersville, I know with the injury and kind of changing up the offense a little bit, it's not where you want to see the game going coming into Week 1 playoffs. In my opinion, this game should have been handled, but with the injuries, that does play a big factor in there. Regardless, they did come away with a win. But definitely have some areas they got to work on coming into Week 1 because they're going to have a fight on their hands.
From my perspective, if you're like probably us sitting at this table and everybody else listening to the game on the radio, you didn't actually find out what happened until later on.
Yeah.
Because Sebring's setting up the 4th down play.
Oh my gosh.
On 105.7 The Bull, then all of a sudden.
Nothing.
There's nothing. It just goes dead. So I'm like, are you kidding me?
Somebody kicked a cord out or something.
I think the internet out there is just so bad that they lost connection.
Well, we were all listening to
Right.
it. As soon as the Tenora game was on, we wanted to listen how that was because, that was a big game and it was going into overtime and we couldn't hear what was going on.
Right.
I'm sure there was after our game was over, I'm sure 1 million people clicked on and all of a sudden the internet went dropped out.
Come on, Raphael. You got to fix the internet out there, please. Come on. And then second, that catch by Delano, hopefully Logan can put that clip in because that was just every bit as good as the Rubenstein catch in the corner of the end zone, just full out dive, one hand, brought it back in. But Coach Mickey, that's a game where you kind of got to adjust your game plan a little bit. I mean, with the injury to Knieven, and still psychologically for the Ayersville kids, I'm sure it was a little rough to get through the first half because you witnessed what happened the previous week, and you're probably playing maybe a little cautiously in the back of your mind. You don't think you are, you probably are because you saw what happened. But regardless, heck of a game from Ayersville and Fairview. Just better things coming.
Guys, a couple things that I saw just looking at the stats. Number one, Garrett McConnell, freshman, coming in, getting 100 yards. And
that's awesome.
Probably his first
Fantastic.
game, the first varsity game, I'm guessing. And that's awesome for him, like you said, Logan, to come in and step in and take those carries. I mean, carried the ball 21 times. That's a lot for a freshman to do. Right. And but congratulations to him. But I was looking at the one stat, unless my math is terrible, Zedike was responsible for 387 of the 390 yards of Fairview. Wow,
that's crazy. Dang, that's impressive.
Like you said, sophomore. It's really impressive.
And these are just 3 of the guys. There's a handful of more kids. That entire freshman and sophomore class is very talented.
And guys, they got a ton of sophomore freshmen. They're gonna have a good freshman class coming up too. That freshman class coming up is really good.
So, yeah, at the end of the day, if you're Ayersville, you came out there with a win. That's what you needed to do, and they're going into the playoffs. So, looking at the next game and last game here, looking at 8-man, and that was Holgate at Morenci, Michigan. Holgate came away with this one 30-22. At half, Holgate was up 18-16. Total yards, Holgate had 307 with 179 rushing. Morenci 277 yards with 204 rushing. Turnovers, Holgate had 1 with an interception. Morenci had 3 with 3 interceptions. Some top players from Holgate: quarterback, defensive back, Xavier McCord was 6 of 14, 128 passing with 1 passing touchdown. He did have 1 interception. He had 8 carries for 127 rushing yards, 2 rushing touchdowns. He had 8 tackles on defense. He had 1 interception on defense, and he had 1 kickoff return for a touchdown. Wide receiver Isaac Mendoza, 5 receptions, 119 receiving yards, and 1 carry for 56 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown. So thoughts on the Holgate at Morenci matchup?
Good win for Coach Wagner and Holgate. McCord, not the usual eye-popping stats that we're used to seeing, like, those are video game stats mostly for Xavier, but quality win for Holgate.
Once again, the special teams thing probably changed this game. He returned a kickoff for a touchdown. Yep. So, and then they win 30-22. So, once again, special teams comes through and helps them with a victory.
Yep.
AJ, any thoughts from you?
No, you guys said it perfectly.
All right. Well, that wraps up our game recaps from Week 10. We're going to take a break to hear from our sponsors, and we'll be right back. 3Chord is a family-owned and operated business who offers the highest quality embroidery, screen printing, sign and promotional items to customers in Northwest Ohio at competitive prices. Locations in Archbold, Napoleon, and Bowling Green. Check them out at 3chord.com. That's THREECORD.com. BSN Sports is your go-to business for purchasing uniforms, equipment, spiritwear, and anything else your athletic program needs, giving you more time to impact lives on the field. With over 1,200 sales professionals who live, work, and serve in your community, we are always just a short drive or phone call away. Be sure to give your local sales rep and Jim Garris a call for any of your athletic supply needs. We're back on the NWO Sports Podcast, and we are on to the Coach's Corner segment of the podcast. And we are on to talking to the Ayersville Pilots head coach and Andrew Mickey. So thanks for coming on, Coach.
Thanks for having me, guys. Good to be here.
So I want to go ahead and congratulate you first for your team's share of the GMC title and your playoff berth. So I just want to get that out of the way. So let's go ahead. Let's start off talking about the season. Give us a breakdown of what your season's been like so far.
Really up and down, if I'm being honest. I mean, we start the non-conference and we start out 2-0 and playing some pretty good football in those first 2 games. And then we take the field against the juggernaut that is Bluffton and really didn't play a clean game against them. I mean, they were better than us. Make no bones about it, but they weren't 42-0 better than us. We could have played a lot better in that football game. And then we start to ascend as we move into conference schedule and, just ups and downs throughout the season and our level of preparedness and getting ready for games. And it all kind of, we've been on an up those last couple of weeks, so hopefully that continues as we move into playoffs here.
Yeah, and so going into the next couple of questions I have for you. So we've always talked about teams developing an identity throughout the season, and that seems like you guys like to run the ball now. I mean, you guys are running it, and you're doing it well. Tell me a little bit about your offense, and how has that looked this season?
I mean, really, we've always had an identity of running the ball. Now, we've looked to be a little bit more balanced toward the beginning of the season, maybe not from a play calling standpoint, but hopefully from taking advantage of certain things that are there when we like to run the ball. If teams try to overload us in the box, we try to hit some outside shots. And in the last few weeks, we've really just kind of honed in on the run game aspect of what we like to do and make adjustments there because, like you said, Logan, it's our identity. It's who our kids are. It's who we want to be. And I tell them all the time, just be us. And we're a smash mouth football team. We're a team that likes to hit and be physical and play the game of football. I think the way it was intended to be played, and run power, block down, and kick out. Let's do that and let's be us, and we own that. So the last few weeks, it's been really, really good for us.
Your offensive line, that's one of the bigger and better units in the area. How have they contributed to your success this season?
Oh my goodness, you can't say it enough. I mean, the 300 yards rushing the last 3 weeks in a row. And, Coach Fritzy is our O-line coach, and he does a tremendous job with those guys. Coach Bainfeld calls the offense, and whenever they get over 300 yards rushing, they know it. They get chocolate milk and donuts on Saturday from Coach Fritzy. Each of them gets a full gallon of chocolate milk.
That's awesome.
It's not like we're not talking one of these little art things. Coach Fritzy's coming in with gallons of chocolate milk for all 6 of those guys.
That's awesome.
I want to play offensive line there.
Right? Yeah. And so they're like, is that 300? Did we get 300? You guys are over 300. Yeah, chocolate milk.
Awesome.
They get all kinds of fired up about it. And so the last 3 weeks, they've been able to do that, and they've they've really embraced that identity. You know, being who we are. Let's own the line of scrimmage, and we've been able to do that the last few weeks.
Now, I know you're more of a defensive side guy. Why don't you tell me about that?
I think this year has been just a great second year in the system. I mean, Coach Martinez called it last year while I was calling the offense with Coach Bainfeld, and I was able to turn everything over to Coach Bainfeld. Obviously I still have some input over there,
right?
But I was able to turn everything over to him mainly and move back to my comfort zone, which is defense. I like calling the defense. I like having that attack mindset. But I mean, if we're being honest, like we just talked about, we kind of play offense like most teams play defense and just come right at you. So. Mm-hmm. But no, it's a lot more comfortable for me. I'm back to calling the defense, and it's like I said, it's the same stuff we ran last year. So it's a kid's second year in the system. It's been a lot cleaner. Our pre-snap alignments, our pre-snap assignments, communication, and even as this year has gone on, it's gotten better. We got 4 seniors that are our starters in the back end at the safety in the corners. So that helps a lot in the communication aspect and leadership.
Definitely. I'm going to open it up to some questions from these guys. So whoever wants to go ahead and go first.
I guess I'd go first. I got a couple for you. You guys played Tenor really tough. Unfortunately, came away with
not tough enough.
Came away with a loss there. But Tenor's no shabby team either, and it's just a rivalry game. But you guys came back and responded, and then go over to Antwerp and take out Antwerp. So what was what was the process going into that week? I mean, did you obviously use the Tenor game to motivate?
It was more just a nothing to lose mentality. I mean, really. Going into that game, I mean, raise your hand if you picked us in that game. Anybody. Nobody did. And that's fine. It's not a bad thing.
Sure.
Nobody was picking us going into that game. We had no pressure on us. Nobody expected us to do anything. So there was nothing to be lost. There was no pressure on our kids. And against Tenor, not to take any credit away from Tenor won that football game. Graziani and those guys went out there in that last drive, and they marched the ball down the field and put it in our end zone and scored to win the game. It wasn't we lost the game; they won the game. But our kids played tight the whole night.
Yep,
they were very, very tight. And against Antwerp, they just didn't. They played loose. They played free. We had a Lucas Fishpaw out at corner, and he's supposed to be in deep third, and he jumps a hitch on the 5-yard line. They like to run fades out of their own end zone, and Lucas sees a hitch, jumps a hitch, and picks it on their 5-yard line. Like, I've never seen him make that aggressive of a play. So they just played aggressive, loose, free, aggressive football, and that's what we want to identify as. That's who we want to be, and that's who we aspire to as a team. And so that was the sales pitch all week going into that game. It's like, guys, we don't have anything to lose. It's just everything to gain. Playoff berth is back out there, because at that point we were on the outside looking in.
Right.
Yeah.
If we didn't beat Antwerp, we didn't have enough points left on our schedule to get in. So playoff positioning, back into a share of the GMC title, everything to gain, nothing to lose.
Yeah.
Just go play and have fun.
And the other question I had, is obviously, you picked up a freshman this week to fill in for Torin, and how has that been? Having to deal with that, and that happening last week in the game, and having to try to make that adjustment mid-season as you're trying to work your way into the playoffs.
Well, GMAC, Garrett McConnell he's been in the backfield for us for a few weeks now as a rotator, and he's played a lot of outside linebacker for us this year. So with him kind of moving into that starting spot, I was very hesitant to say that he took over for Torin, because that's. You're not going to replace a 1,000-yard back in 9 games with a freshman. That's not fair to Garrett. Garrett did a tremendous job against Fairview. He ran for 100 yards, so that was good. But Abe had more carries. Ray Wolfram moved from his receiver spot into the backfield and had 6 or 7 carries. We spread it out that way. Lucas carried the ball a few times against Fairview, and I think that's kind of how we moved around, not having Torin. That's a huge loss for us. I think that was. Him and Abe were the engines that made our offense go, really. And so him being down it hurt, and we had to have some guys step up, and definitely Garrett McConnell was one of them. And he's a freshman, but like I talked about, with playing against Doug Rakes in Week 10, hopefully, not hopefully, I know the rest of our coaching staff does a tremendous job of those kids. Chuck Martinez is our running backs coach. He's not a freshman anymore. It's Week 11.
Right.
He's playing more like a sophomore, even older. He plays tough physical football. He's an Ayersville football player. He identifies as one of us, and he hits the hole hard and likes to run some people over. So
good.
I love having him.
Kind of going back to that Antwerp game, coming into those last final moments there, what was going through your head? Did it even sink in at any point that could be the game that changes the way the GMC comes out?
I mean, no, not in the moment. You're not really thinking that way. I'm thinking, let's get this last first down so I can call victory formation. We get the heck out of here with this W. No, it didn't really enter my mind, and even after that, I knew I'm a pretty quick to the next game, and I got to do a better job of that probably as far as enjoying the victory more in the moment, because wins are hard to come by. But I was looking right away at what Wayne Trace was bringing to the table. I mean, I think of them as one of the top 4 as far as talent teams in the league this year. I mean, I thought it was, us, Sonora, Antwerp were the top 3 teams, and obviously we're the 3 that tied for the league title. And then Wayne Trace was right there with all of the 3 of us as far as talent in the league. And then the other teams are a little bit younger. But I knew what was in store for us against Wayne Trace, and I was not wrong. They charged right back on us, especially after Torrin went down. They charged right back in that game. They did not back down, did not slow down or give up in that game. They played their butts off. So,
yeah, and we didn't necessarily pick you, Coach, but we definitely did not count you out of that Antwerp game. We said that if there was a team that was going to beat Antwerp, it would be a team like you guys that just pound the ball. We knew that Antwerp had a little bit of a weakness against the run, and we knew that you guys were fantastic offense to the run. So we knew that was going to be a good matchup for you guys. So congratulations on that win.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say real quick, it's awesome to see that you guys have some little things that just motivate your players, like the chocolate milk. That's awesome. People don't understand how much motivation that is. Just the little things. You know? A win is obviously the grand motivation, but that's hard to visualize that goal. But when you've got a goal like 300 yards and we get chocolate milk, that's an easy attainable goal to work towards, and it really does play a huge role in
oh yeah, they
culture.
Get fired up for it.
Yeah, it's such a simple thing, but yet the kids just jump all over it. Like, oh yeah, we got our chocolate milk.
we do quite a few things for our O-line guys. I mean, just because they're not the first guys to get in the stat books or anything like that, so they're not getting all the pub. When you see the paper on Saturday morning, it's rushing yards by this kid, passing yards by this kid, receiving touchdowns there. It doesn't say Ethan Cordaway had 7 pancake blocks, and Brady Clark was pulling and kicking like a man-child all night. I mean, if I may, left to right, our O-line goes tight end. The tight end who doesn't get enough love, a sophomore for us, Eli Berner. I mean, he's thickums. He's thick in the lower body. He's Owen Berner's younger brother. But he ain't built like Owen. He's much thicker and bulkier kid, and he does a tremendous job for us at the tight end position. Actually caught a big 4th down pass against Fairview this past week. So we got him the ball that way. But Eli Berner does a tremendous job. And then you go Ethan Cordaway, Brady Clark, Trenton Florence, Noah Bodie, and Caden Boer. That's our guys up front that drive the engine for us.
I tell you what, too, something else I wanted to point out, your team plays physical. Obviously, we were at the Tenora game, and man, like guys like Brady Clark, they were lighting some dudes up. And it was just like every single play. I remember, obviously, because we were at the Tenora game, but you guys came out in that second half and just your offensive line moved the ball downfield at will. And it was just impressive to see. And not only just your linemen, but everyone else. Your kids just play so hard. And I just want to commend you guys for coaching them up to that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like I said, it's what we aspire to. That's a team that we want to be, and that's it's still a process. There's still some areas that we point out to the kids and try to get better at, but for the most part, they've embraced the culture that I've been talking about since I got here. Those guys are fully bought in and couldn't be happier to be part of Arizona football.
Keith, I know you've got a load of questions.
Well, seeing this is why you bring backup questions, because you guys stole about 6 of them. I'm just crossing them out
as we go.
Keith goes before we get on here. He's like, man, I really got a lot of questions to ask Coach Mickey. I'm excited for this. I'm like, all right, Keith, we'll let you rip now.
Go on.
That's why I jumped in first.
There you go.
What's your favorite steak?
Well, trust me, he'll ask those kind of questions.
Yeah, let's do it. I'm ready.
So I always ask the questions like grandma or something wants to ask, but that'll be my second question. But not really going in depth on the injury to Knieven, Coach, but your trainer Clay Keaty is probably the best in the area. No offense to the other trainers, but he's helped some of our athletes in the past when we didn't have a trainer on site. But Clay's got to be one of the best and very important to you and your program, I would assume.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the medical staff at Arizona, I think we're blessed in a very, very different way than anybody else could be. And the fact that we've got Clay, I've also got a certified athletic trainer on our coaching staff.
Oh, wow.
Bill Zartman. He's a certified trainer, and he's with us, so he's there for any kind of bumps and bruises. One of our sideline guys that he tows the equipment hauler for us is the fire chief out here. That's Paul Siebert, Spanky. Everybody knows. Everybody and their mother knows Spanky. That's the first guy I met before my interview when I interviewed for the football job at Arizona. Spanky is the guy who showed me around the building. He goes, "My name's Spanky." I was like, that's what they call me. I was like, you can't get him to stop calling you that? But no, I love Spank, and he's down there with us. So we've got an EMT fire chief down there. We've got a certified athletic trainer on our staff. And, of course, you talk about Clay.
Yeah.
So if there was better medical attention for a young man to get, I don't know where he would have gotten it.
That's awesome. Yes, another question I have for you. I think you were on probably the greatest assistant staff in the history of high school football over at Fairview. Is this not true? You had
I agree 100%.
Bob Olin, Travis Cooper, yourself, and Coach McCord, Craig McCord, the field that you
and John McCord,
and John, right, and John as well.
Head coach at Fairview. I mean, Kenny Bolin, Tim Grine, Jake Jones. It was a staff where.
And this is with Coach Rakes.
Yes, Coach Rakes was the head coach. Yeah, no, we had. I can vividly remember some of our staff meetings on Saturday mornings after we get done watching film and the kids would leave, and I would just roll my chair back and sit in the corner and just shut up,
right,
and just listen to Coach Mack and Coach Olwyn go back and forth. And not in a bad way. I'm not saying they weren't.
No, right.
They're just bouncing ideas off of each other. And no, it was definitely good times in that locker room and that coach's office. It was a special year. It was a really good group, and just serendipitously having Travis Cooper kind of fall into his lap for Coach Rakes there, and it's like, I don't have a position yet. And then with a couple weeks, and say, I'll coach the O-line. Oh, sure, let's. Yeah. And that was awesome. I mean, just seeing a guy like that with that kind of coaching chops, and he just coached the O-line that year. It was a tremendous staff to be a part of.
Yeah, that's a blessing. That's amazing staff.
It really takes a special kind of coach to be able to pull themselves back and learn from what's going on. Instead of trying to push your opinion in, and it really takes a special kind of coach to realize that you're among greats and to learn from them, because it's a rare thing.
If you can't look at Bob Olwyn and John McCord, Craig McCord, and those guys and be like, these guys got some football knowledge. It's beyond what Craig McCord, I think, has forgotten more football than I'll know. Man, I love talking to him and learning some of the stuff he talks about. He's been working on that book for a long time. Yeah. And I just imagine. Tell me, guys, you think about, you've got the coaching history in the library that he does, and you're going back through and watching all of that. And it's just every week is like a trip down memory lane as you're watching this stuff and you remember some of the things that you've forgotten along the way. That's got to be special.
Yeah, that's going to be great.
All right, Keith, any more questions?
It's related to football. It's not related to Ayersville, but you were at North Central, Coach.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that, if you would, about the startup of their football program.
I'll tell you what, that's a passionate group of parents, is what it boils down to, because they didn't get very much support from the school financially speaking. It was a group that really kind of took it upon themselves. They wanted their young men in that community to have football. It was important to them. It meant something to them. They understand football, and it was important to them to have it. So they really started. It was a grassroots kind of thing. They started those boys playing in 5th and 6th grade, and that was their class. This is their class that they started in 5th and 6th grade. The seniors now, and they kind of built that program from the ground up. They had Coach Parrish a few years before. It was Scott Thompson. And then they brought in Coach Thompson when it was, a JV program for a couple years there, and did it right that way. They played nothing but JV games and really took it slow for those kids until they put them out there with varsity competition these last 2 years, and you've seen the results. Yeah. They're 9-1 this year, a playoff berth, and now they've got Patrick Henry, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
To me, this is we talked to Coach Thompson, and this is the statement they need to make. They need to go in and they need to not necessarily beat PH, but they got to go out there and play well against them. And I think that would make a statement, that North Central's for real.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to reel things back in here to.
Sorry. I go on tangents, guys. Sorry.
I just feel like we're talking off. We want to talk some Ayersville football here, so we're going to reel it back in. Okay, you guys are number 10 seed facing number 7 seed Lima Central Catholic. They're always tough coming playoff time. What's it going to take this week to get a win? And I believe you guys are playing at Lima Shawnee, right?
Correct.
Because there's like a scheduling conflict.
Well,
with the
I
stadium.
think Lima Senior has first rights to that field.
Yeah, something like that.
All playoff games have to be on a Friday night. So seniors playing there, and LCC has to find somewhere else to host us. So we're gonna play at Shawnee.
So yeah, with Lima Central Catholic, they've got Carson Parker. Everyone knows about him, the stud quarterback. They always play tough year in, year out in the playoffs. What's it going to take for the Pilots to get a win?
Well, I think there's a number of things. Number one, we have to play a clean game offensively. I don't think. You talked about the Parker kid. You don't want to give him extra possessions by turning the football over. So playing a clean game offensively, controlling the football, keeping their offense off the field. I mean, it's a lot better to defend him if he's overstanding next to his coach. I think that'll make it a lot easier for us. So playing a clean game and controlling the ball, and then capitalizing on any opportunities that they give us. If we can get a turnover, get them to punt the ball, get them, it's maybe a big play on special teams, something like that. Make sure we capitalize on any big plays. But if we're able to do that and run to the ball and play disciplined defensively, I mean, I don't think there's a way defensively for us to completely shut them out.
Right.
That's not going to happen. They're too talented of a football team. I told our kids that on Monday. If we go into this game expecting a shutout, we're going to be disappointed. If they score, we can't be walking off after the PAT all down on ourselves. No, that's fine. I mean, they're going to get some on us. This is a playoff game. It's a playoff team. We're going to play at their house. They're probably going to get some plays on us. That's okay. We go out there the next possession and try a little bit harder. Strap it up. Let's go. So keep after it on defense and try to maybe make sure we play clean on offense.
Yeah, and I'm excited to watch you guys go play. We'll all be rooting you on here for a win.
Appreciate that.
But that pretty much wraps up our interview with you. But I can tell you what, if I was a player at 110%, want to play with you because
absolutely.
Definitely enjoy hearing you talk every time we talk. So
it's a good time.
Yeah, for sure. So I just want to thank you again for taking time to come out during your busy week. Obviously, you're in playoff prep now. But good luck again this Friday and the rest of playoffs.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Good luck, Coach.
We're going to take a break to hear from our sponsors. For any of your auto body or collision needs, be sure to check out Bat & Stevens Body Shop. Voted the #1 body shop in Northwest Ohio by Crescent News readers. Give them a call today at 419-497-3111 to schedule your free estimate. Check out Tenora Rams Live. Live events broadcast on YouTube and post-game results, articles, schedules, and more can all be found on tenorarams.com. Feel free to look up their Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram pages as well. Fairchild Family Chiropractic aims to help families to get better together in the least invasive way possible. Dr. Fairchild focuses on the neck using the Blair technique and Palmer package, adjusting to correct spinal misalignments. Located in Defiance, Ohio, call Dr. Fairchild today at 419-576-5070 to schedule an appointment. We're back on the NWO Sports Podcast, and we are on to Player of the Week from Week 10. So we'll go ahead and we'll roll out some of the guys who made the nominee list, and then we'll reveal who our picks were. So let's go ahead and kick it off. First guy is Columbus Grove running back Trent Barraza, Paulding defensive back Jesse Schaefer, Liberty Center running back Colton Cruz, Ayersville's athlete Abe Delano, because he plays everywhere. Fairview quarterback William Zedike, Patrick Henry running back Houston Miranda, Antwerp quarterback Carson Altimus, Antwerp linebacker Cyrus Gale, Van Wert quarterback Brylan Parker. So guys, who's someone who maybe kind of caught your eye for Player of the Week this week?
Did you take off?
As you put it, Cyrus the Virus coming in with 22 tackles on defense. Man, that is fantastic. Looking at some of the stats for some of the games that I've been messing with on like Huddle and things, teams average right around 50 to 60 plays a game. So he's got a third to a half of the entire defensive plays he's responsible for making the tackle on. He doesn't have like sacks and things like that, but man, when you come away with 22 tackles, that's fantastic.
Definitely finding his way to the football.
It almost makes you wonder, as a coach on the other side of the ball, you've got to find a way to get away from him. If he's making that many plays, you got to take him out of the game somehow.
Yeah, that's a guy you got to find the number and say, go get that guy.
Yeah, it's just a dangerous player to go up against.
Me, Ayersville's Abe Delano. Great game against Fairview, and just on this touchdown catch alone is my nomination. Like I said, Logan, if we didn't already see
like
that,
a Sports Center top 10 clip.
Yeah, so I nominate Ayersville's Abe Delano.
Tony?
For me, I nominate Fairview quarterback William Zedike, throwing for 273 yards and rushing for 114 for a total of 387 yards out of Fairview's 390, I believe it was. So that's a pretty big game there.
And after some discussion, We ended up going with Columbus Grove running back Trent Barraza, recently named the NWC Offensive Player of the Year. 29 carries, 179 rushing yards, 2 rushing touchdowns. And not only that, but it was against a Bluffton defense that had, how many shutouts? Seven straight. 7 straight shutouts on the year. That was just a dominating defense, and Trenton went out there, and he continues to produce. Literally, I think we've been calling him, his nickname's the Tank, because he just carries the ball 29, 30 times a game, puts up to about 200 rushing yards and a couple rushing touchdowns. But he is very deserving of that. A huge win. It ended up winning the conference title. It bumped him to the number 1 seed in the region. So an excellent performance out of him. And, I want to give the credit to the offensive line as well. Those guys, Trenton's performance wouldn't be possible without them. And so excellent job. Yeah. So our player of the week will receive some NWO sports gear courtesy of BSN Sports. So again, we thank BSN Sports for their strong support of us in area athletics as well.
And some better news, Logan, for all the coaches in the Northwest Conference. I believe he's just a sophomore.
So. Yes, he is. That's the unbelievable thing.
Good luck, guys.
Better news for the Northwest Conference coaches.
Kidding.
Yeah, there you go. Deal with that for a couple more years.
Yeah, that's right. So, the NWC has a lot to look out for in Columbus Grove's running back, but they have a history of phenomenal running backs every year, and he's just going to add to it. Yep. Let's move on to the next segment here, looking at power rankings, and we're looking at the end of the regular season. So let's go ahead. I'll break it down, and you guys will kind of tell me.
I'm just chuckling already because the power rankings create so much turmoil.
They do. So, yeah, but it never fails. But this, like I said before, it's basically a breakdown, kind of taking quality wins, quality losses, obviously record too, but at the same time, just seeing how those teams would match up. For instance, if, say Tenora and Wasion played, who do you think would win that game? So kind of break that down. So we'll start with number 25, Swanton, 24, Hilltop, 23, Hicksville, 22, Edgerton, 21, Fairview, 20, Delta. Thoughts on this group here?
That's pretty accurate. Fairview obviously could be moved up because they've been playing tough, but just can't seem to get that win. But I think you're good.
Looks good.
Yep. Next group, 19 Evergreen, 18 Montpelier, 17 Eden, 16 Wayne Trace, and 15 Ottawa Glandorf.
I already know where this is going, but I'm going to agree. I'll agree. Like Logan says, you got to take into consideration records for the most part in this don't really factor into the rankings much. It's how you would play against everybody else in this ranking. So
correct. Which team are you looking at? I can probably guess which one.
Montpelier.
OG and Montpelier.
OG and Montpelier,
right.
Yes.
OG
literally just took
Defiance basically to the last 90 seconds of the game.
And you look at some other teams, they played tough. Salina was an 8-2 team. Yep. They only lost 27-7. Van Wert, they lost by 1 score. Countless other teams that they played tough. You can't tell me if some of these other teams, these small schools, played in the WBL, they would be blowouts. Right. That's kind of how I look at it for these rankings.
Yeah, we love Coach Robinson. We had him in the studio.
Right.
And don't get me wrong, you can only play the games that's on your schedule.
Correct.
So we love him. Trust me, we love him. We pulled for him last year. We pulled for him this year. There's really nothing that they can do until they're joining a conference.
Or North Central.
Yes.
Yeah.
In North Central. Oh, yeah. Yes. And just it's that's just we could talk about this all day, so I'll just be quiet for now.
Well, I was going to bring that up, but I'll let him go through the next 5.
Yeah. North Central is a perfect example. Yeah, just conference and whatnot. Go ahead. Yes. I'm done.
Well, let's move on to the next part. 14 Paulding, 13 North Central, 12 Bryan, 11 Patrick Henry. We'll save the top 10 here. So
since you brought up North Central, I'm the same way. People can complain and all that until Eden and Montpelier want to step up and play North Central, and then we'll see how that actually shakes out. I would like to see that.
Yeah.
And they're all right there close together, and it'd be neat to see those teams play each other because the travel distance, and you could make you could develop a big rivalry there. Right. Montpelier and North Central, it's kind of like the Wayne Trace Paulding game.
Honestly, just like going off of what Tony said, is it really fair to North Central and their kids? On the road games, they have to meet in the middle somewhere and still drive 2 hours to play a game on Friday night.
And 110%, it makes the most sense for them to join the TAC. With Eden and Montpelier and all those other schools, they're right in that area. I know there's been some discussion with North Central of sustainability and things like that, but what's it going to hurt? That's the thing I look at. They're right there. give them a shot. They're going out there and they're trying to play games.
Yep.
They still ended up with a 9-1 season, and they made the playoffs for the second year in a row.
Heck of a season.
So I think the program's there to stay. So I'm 110% for them joining the TAC.
Yeah, the only scar. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, just with the comment about the sustainability, I think them being able to get in a conference helps with that, because right now they're traveling 2 to 3 hours, and we kind of talked about how Coach Mickey talked. They didn't really get a ton of support from the school, at least yet. And as the program builds and as they get into a conference, that could definitely change. They're going to start getting more support from the community, more support from the school, things like that. Right now, they're kind of just left high and dry to just fend for themselves. So it's going to take getting into a conference before they can really start to excel.
Yeah, but I'm gonna call North Central out. What happened last year at the end of the season when they basically, forfeited or whatever that happened? That's a scar. That's gonna leave a lasting impression in people's eyes, and that could be something that could take a year or so to get over.
Yep.
I mean, and they're 9-1, but the people are still looking back. Well, look what happened. Remember what happened last year? Remember what happened last year?
Yep,
and
that's true.
That could be a big black eye that's going to stay there for a little bit.
All right, let's look at the top 10. Cracking the top 10 is Ayersville, 9 Wauseon, 8 Tenora, 7 Napoleon, 6 Van Wert, and we'll save the top 5. Thoughts on this group here?
Well, you could match any of those teams up, I think, and have a whale of a ball game.
Yep.
I mean, we saw Tenora and Ayersville play. So
We've seen Tenora and
Antwerp
Trace
play
in the past, and they're pretty evenly matched.
I mean, I look at, you look at Tenora's 7-3 record and Antwerp I won't go into where the teams that they lost to are up in the top. So, I think, Tenora could definitely be moved up, but.
All right, well, let's look at top 5. 5 Antwerp, 4 Defiance, 3 Columbus Grove, 2 Archbold, 1 Liberty Center. And all I got to say is those are some good teams.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Very good teams. I accurately ranked.
Defiance is the one that puzzles me a little bit.
I agree.
Defiance is the one that I'm not so sure they deserve to stay at 4. They've not been playing well, squeaking out the win, but and I hope Coach Coop gets them back rolling. But boy, they're not looking very sharp, and you want to be playing your best ball at the end. And right now, they're not playing their best ball. Yep. So,
and how about the top 3? Obviously, Liberty Center is separated from everyone else in the group. We've been saying that the whole time. It's Liberty Center and then the field. But even Archbold, Columbus Grove, those are 2 hard-nosed teams, and they're going to make some playoff runs. 110%, I believe it.
Yep. Dude, we've seen Archbold play Liberty Center, and we've already talked about there could be a possible rematch if both teams win. If they're through the playoffs. But team, I would like to see Columbus Grove Liberty Center game. Those are 2 tough games, 2 hard-nosed, run the ball kind of. That would be a good game to watch, I think. I don't know. Maybe Liberty Center just goes out there and, as AJ said earlier, takes them behind a woodshed and whips her hiney again. I don't know. But, Columbus Grove is a good ball club. They're tough. They're hard-nosed, and it would be neat to see them.
That'd be interesting. Do you want to see it at a neutral site, Clymer Stadium, or do you want to see it at Liberty Center
just
too?
For those that are novice, those 2 cannot play in the playoffs because they're 2 different.
Correct.
This is
Yes.
Hypothetical.
Hypothetical.
Yeah.
So don't.
Yeah, that would be it would be awesome to see him play. Maybe that's something like Liberty Center could pick up Columbus Grove as
in a non-conference match.
Oh my gosh!
Well, I will say there's a lot of talk right now about a lot of hopes from Tenora that maybe they transition away from Liberty Center. I was talking to Coach Becker about that they've been playing each other. Liberty Center and Tenora have been playing for 32 years, going back to like 1991 or 92, somewhere around there. And out of those 30 years, Tenora's only beat Liberty Center 6 times. Wow. So it's an outstanding stat against that. So there's a lot of talk on Tenora's side about dropping Liberty Center for week 1. And if that does happen, that could open up a game against like Columbus Grove for Liberty Center as an out-of-conference game.
Maybe Tenora picks up Columbus Grove.
Or,
that'd be awesome to see too.
Because Coach Becker is very much against all 4 still playing a competitive game. He doesn't want a cakewalk, but he wants something that's a little more evenly matched. Because I mean, Liberty Center's state semifinalist, state champion material, and you're starting off your season against that. So
I don't know, playing Columbus Grove would actually.
I don't know that Columbus Grove would be any better of a choice there.
But a little bit smaller of a school. Maybe you match up athlete wise a little better. I don't know, but I've always joked around, and I know Defiance can't do it, but I'd like to see Tenora play like a Defiance or Liberty Center. Hey, go play Defiance. Let's I don't know. And this year's team with Liberty Center, and I know we keep talking about it, but this year's Liberty Center team, I think, is just a woodshed whooping team.
Yeah, that's for sure.
We'll see what happens as they go through the playoffs and keep them grounded and just truck right through the playoffs like they're supposed to.
All right. We're going to go ahead. We're going to take a break to hear from our sponsors, and we'll be right back.
Crystal Vasquez of Amerimaid Realty is a top real estate agent in Northwest Ohio. Crystal's compassion and enthusiasm allow her to find that special property or house just for you. Located in Bryan, Ohio, give her a call today at 419-799-1243. Jimenez Basketball Academy strives to create an atmosphere to cultivate basketball fundamentals in Northwest Ohio youth athletes, offering one-on-one sessions, group sessions, speed and agility training, and much more. Located in Pettisville, Ohio, call Coach Jesse today at 419-551-8105. Drop Zone Pizzeria is the #1 voted pizza restaurant in the region. Check them out for pizza, wings, subs, and more. Located in Ayersville and Stryker, or ask them about their traveling food trailer. Optimal Performance Fitness is your go-to gym in Northwest Ohio, providing group fitness classes, personal training, and sports performance sessions for area athletes. Located in Napoleon, Ohio, give them a call today at 419-438-7265.
We're back on the NWO Sports Podcast, and we are on to our favorite section, and that would be the Hot Takes presented by BSN Sports. We got a couple good ones here for you to start. So let's get this thing rolling. The first one is, when does football go to place your team on the bracket like every other sport does? Use rankings to get your 16 teams, then Zoom meeting to put yourself on the bracket and let the schools pick their matchups. We're going to swing it to this guy right here because Tony's got a very strong opinion on this. Tony.
I do. And it's, I'm a softball coach, guys. And in softball, that's what we do. And I don't care for it, honestly. I would rather, based on who you play, score my teams, rank everybody, and then put us in the bracket and let us play it out. Going in there and picking who you play. For instance, like this past year, we were the 3 seed, I think, and people were upset because we were the 3 seed, and because that's where they put us, and so then you go in there and you pick, and then everybody says, like, I picked against, I wanted to go against the #1 seed, which was Oak Harbor this past year, and everybody's like, why did you pick that? Why did you pick that? Well, you got to beat them anyways. I mean, eventually you're going to have to play them, or at least you're going to play somebody else beats them or whatever, but. So it's kind of difficult to put yourself in that bracket. I'd rather just, you guys put me in a bracket and I'll go play. Because I think there's some politics that go into that when you start 100%. Picking you play here and then I'll go here and we'll play that way. We'll match up later on.
It's one of these, you give them a little shoulder tap. Hey, let's go here and I'll go there.
Exactly. So. You go here, I'll go here, and hopefully we'll meet in the championship game and, that kind of thing. And I think that's why I kind of surprised some people last year when I said, we're just going to go play Oak Harbor. And everybody was kind of shocked. And then, we went there and we were getting spanked. I mean, we were down 7-0.
About the
5-0.
Fourth inning, fifth inning, fourth or fifth inning.
Yeah, 5-0 in the fourth inning, I think it was, and all of a sudden we exploded, scored 7 runs, and then we just scored runs again in the next inning, and ended up taking the win away from them on a fantastic play at the end. But regardless, so we're not talking softball, but. To me, this is a bad way to go. I think, but you can never do that with the other sports, I don't think, because people don't rank the teams like they do necessarily like they do football. Football's got a lot of following, and
it does.
We talked about with Drew Pasteurs last week that Ohio loves their high school football. Yep. So you got all kinds of people out there doing these rankings and being able to calculate these points and all this stuff, and people just aren't going to do that for basketball. They're not going to do that for softball. They're not going to do it for baseball. So just go in there and pick where you want to play and go play.
Say it's a lot easier to do that kind of stuff with football when you only have 10 games per team.
Right.
Softball, you're looking at 25, 30 games. Yeah. Basketball, close to that. A lot more challenging to do that for other sports as opposed to football. You got 10 games, figure it out, go home, be done.
Put a challenge. Hey, Drew Pasteurs, if you're listening, hey, there's your next game, right? That's the next thing right there. Try to make that happen.
Keith, what are your thoughts?
No, I'm with Tony. I think there's nothing wrong with this system. If anything, which really doesn't, I guess it similarly involves this. 16 teams is, in my opinion, too many. Like, that 1-16 matchup is sometimes just a brutal matchup for that 16th team. If anything, go to 12, similar. I guess give a bye in the first round, and to your top 4 seeds, and then have your 8 teams kind of fight for the chance to move on. But 16 is too many, and but just to throw magnets at a board and seed them that way, basically, I don't like that at all.
Yeah, no, Keith, I agree with what you guys have all said. I think I definitely like the system the way it is now. I think it's clean. I think it's simple. It keeps things to the point. I think anytime you introduce politics and voting and things like that when it comes to sports, never goes well.
Right.
And I don't know. I just think you're just introducing a whole nother aspect to the game. That's even like professional sports. I say just keep politics out of the game.
Right.
Like, there's a lot of that now in professional sports. I think it's just better if everyone goes out there and they play the sport they're paid to do. So
even college sports isn't getting that way anymore. It's just
it's so political with things. And but
we've heard a lot of bickering and things like that as far as the conference awards go from several conferences, that people are just not happy with the way the politics and the voting played out. How do you think it would be if you did that for rankings? It would be a nightmare. It would be horrible.
Yeah, and just I don't know. It's just because we have to, like softball, we have to rank our teams. We have to sit down and rank our teams where we think people should be, and unless you play those teams, I mean, there's some teams there. There's some teams that are in Division III with us in softball that there's just I don't see them. So, to give an accurate ranking of where I think they should be, I mean, obviously I look at their schedule and see who they played and all that kind of stuff. But when you're talking football and you're using 16 teams, especially the way Ohio's doing this crap that we're getting ready to talk about next, you're talking about teams that are clear across the freaking state. How do I know how West Holmes is going to match up? You know what I mean? I have nowhere. How am I going to rank those people? Yeah. You know what I mean? You're literally going to look at a record and go, oh, yeah, they're 9-0. Okay, I'll put up,
Something else, Keith, I know you kind of mentioned it too, is you talked about changing the teams, which obviously that's a whole nother topic. Yeah. But I've talked to some coaches too, and they're actually against the 12 teams just because, they don't necessarily want that bye. And I know, Tony, you're a coach. I don't know. What are your thoughts on having a bye come playoff time?
Well, I mean, when my first year I coached, I took the first round bye. I took the day off. I didn't play, and then it ended up biting me in the butt because we had a game rained out. We had to make up a game, and then we ended up playing like 3 games back to back to back. So it wasn't good for us to take that game off. So. So we ended up having to squeeze a game in there, but I prefer just to play. That's what I chose to do this past year, and I think it just keeps everybody kind of rolling. And I don't know, but I agree. 16 teams is too many. You're getting teams in there that don't deserve to be there, in my opinion. I
like your point. I agree as far as like taking a bye, you get out of a rhythm, things like that. But the caveat is football is unlike any other sport because once you get to the playoffs, health is a consideration.
Correct.
Absolutely. Because say you play one of those games, your lead running back or your quarterback, they go out and they tear their ACL or they sprain an ankle. I mean, that's one game. I mean, this is all hypothetical, but it's just one more game that those kids are at risk for possibly being injured, and then that could ruin the rest of your playoff run.
Right.
And I was talking to someone about, I think it was Major League Baseball. All those teams that got byes, they actually all lost.
Yeah, they all lost.
But again, baseball guys aren't going out there and getting into car wrecks every time they go and hit someone out on the football field.
True.
So I think that's an interesting point. Do you take the bye if they were to go to 12, or do you not, or do you like it? So that's an interesting point. And
think about NFL. NFL has that first round bye. So think about those teams if they all went in and said, "Hey, let's rank everybody. I'll go play you and pick who they want to play. Wait a minute, I'm going to take the bye. I'll take the bye. I don't want the bye. I'll go play these guys. You know what I mean? It's just like it would be. Just think about using that in the NFL where they actually have that first round bye. And if you're picking everybody, if you're picking your own teams, I always think about it in the grander scale, like when you start talking about college football. Let's talk about college football. These teams match up. I want to go pick my team. Let's just rank everybody and we'll go play. It's just weird.
All right, let's move on to the next hot take. Another good one here. Let's just talk about travel times for first round of football playoffs. Let's talk. So I released on NWO Sports, the places you'll go for round 1 of OHSAA football playoffs. I'll just kind of read through the list here. So here are the times from furthest away to closest. Bryan to West Holmes is 3 hours and 9 minutes. That's one way, guys. That's a long day. Defiance to Bay, 2 hours, 30 minutes. Eden to Waynesfield Goshen, 1 hour, 57 minutes. Montpelier to Hopewell Loudon, 1 hour and 46 minutes. Wauseon to St. Mary's, 1 hour, 40 minutes. Napoleon to Bellevue, 1 hour, 25 minutes. North Central to Patrick Henry, 1 hour, 8 minutes. Paulding to Bluffton, 1 hour. Ayersville to Lima Shawnee, 55 minutes. And then the rest of the teams, Van Wert has a home game. Liberty Center, Archbold, Columbus Grove, Tenor, Antwerp, and Patrick Henry all have home games. So yeah, guys, just thoughts here.
I'll let you guys start because you know where I'm going to go with this.
One of the things, like when we play like Saturday games, you always tell your kids stay in a rhythm, get up in the morning, be active, don't lay around before that game. That's basically what Brian's stuck doing. They're sitting around for 3 hours, not doing anything but stuck on a bus, their legs, bent up, muscles tightening up. West Holmes is going to be at a massive advantage for week 1 because of that. They're going to go out same rhythm as always while Brian's stuck on a bus for 3 hours. And whether they win or lose that game, they're not going to get back until like 1 o'clock in the morning. That's a ridiculous travel time to try to organize.
And it's not like they can do like college football. Like when I played, we played games on Saturday. So we either left Thursday or Friday. We got to stay in a hotel, get all comfortable and had a nice good meal. These kids don't get that opportunity. They have to travel, they have to get ready, and they have to buckle up and get ready to play right away.
Yeah, I assume Logan has a graphic up, like as we were talking about this, as you guys are watching. For those of you listening, you'll have to watch to see this. But yeah, once they went to 16 teams, this is one of the things you wind up with. I mean, you just don't have your 8 teams that are in that region anymore. Now you got these 16 teams that are basically scattered all over basically the northern part of Ohio. We're not talking northwest Ohio. This is the entire northern part of Ohio. And I think last year, actually, Defiance had a similar trip, did they not? They had a long trip in their opening round last year too. So back-to-back years, Defiance has another long bus trip.
It's just interesting to see. Obviously, there's more schools, I believe, in the lower divisions than like Division I. But it's interesting to see how they draw the regions. If you look at this map, and I'll have this posted up on the podcast, you literally have all these dots in Northwest Ohio. Then you have one in Cleveland. You have one near east of Mansfield,
down by Worcester.
Yeah, and it's like you just have these random kind of schools in this region. It's unique to see how they're drawn out.
I mean, there's absolutely zero reason you should be traveling that far in round 1 to the playoffs.
I think when when you guys were making your Final Four trips, I think the longest journey we made was to Wapakoneta. Like even before that, it was Ohio Northern. So it was. That was going deep into the playoffs.
And I don't get. I know you went 16 teams, but how does your region? All of a sudden, you went 16 teams. How in the world, OHSAA, please tell me, how in the world does a team in Cleveland end up in the Northwest Ohio region? Team in Worcester. How are they Northwest Ohio? Yeah, it's if you're going to do regions, break the state up into four quadrants and go play. I mean, I can understand I don't know, the team in green here, whoever that is, has to travel. Is that?
I think that's
which green are you talking?
The light green going all the way down to like Wapakoneta area. I don't even know who that is. St. Mary, Wauseon to St. Mary's. Wauseon to St. Mary's. I mean, I understand that. That's a hour and 40 minutes. And unfortunately, if you're in the region and you're going to have 16 teams, you're probably going to end up traveling an hour and 40. 3 hours and 9 minutes is absolutely ridiculous.
That's just nuts.
There's no way.
Devil's advocate here. What do you do when you don't have enough teams to fill a region? I think that's where they come in.
Again, is why we should have 16 teams.
Yeah.
You're going to have, if you go by regions, guys, seriously, if you go by regions, what you're going to do is you're going to rank them by region, right? And you're going to take the top 16 teams, and you're going to have a 2-7 team in the playoffs.
Didn't that happen, Logan? There's actually a region that actually didn't have enough teams. One team dropped out already.
It was a couple of years ago, and it might even be this year. I haven't looked, but in Division I, there's regions that only have 16 teams. I believe the first year they rolled this out, actually, one of those Division I regions, a team was 0-10 and made the playoffs. But again, that's what they had to have to fill the region. So everyone makes it. So
when you're talking about those, I'm reaching out to Drew Pasteurs because he's like the mathematician guy. What are the odds of a, let's just say a 9 through 16 team upsetting other than the 9 versus the 8, what is the 9 through the 16 seed? What is the possibility of them upsetting? What's the stat
I think
of them upsetting?
Someone released those statistics when they rolled out the 16-team format because a lot of teams were interested. Can these 16 seeds compete with a 1 seed in round 1? And someone rolled those stats out. I wish we could find them. Maybe we'll find that for next week because someone actually did the stats over the last couple of years of how these seeds match up, similar to like NCAA March Madness. Like, what are the odds of those upsets? So,
and if I remember, it was pretty well what you would think, like the 116 or whatnot was.
And it almost lined up exactly like March Madness. I believe like your 8 and 9 seeds that they would pull upsets on whatever seeds they played, and so it's kind of typically what you'd expect. So,
I want a question. So Bucyrus, Winford, you got Sonora at home. How far is Winford traveling?
It's probably about a good hour and a half, I would say, or so.
Fredericktown, I'm not sure where that's at. The closest game, honestly, probably the Liberty Center Elmwood game, to be honest with you. And guys, I just looking at that. That's a rematch of the regional championship game
from last season.
I saw that.
Little different team from
a little different team, but a rematch. I just thought of that.
Different.
But let's see if Elmwood, they're not going to need their heaters that they had last year. But no, getting back to this, I just think the travel time is ridiculous. And when you start going to 16 teams, and OHSA has to explain to me how you go all the way to Cleveland and grab a team to play against teams in Northwest Ohio.
Well, what's kind of crazy,
there's got to be teams there to play,
is your week, I guess, because week 2 you still have home games, but week 3 you start playing neutral site games, and those travel times are shorter than your week 1 teams. You might be playing a team on the other side of Ohio, and you still have a shorter travel time,
right?
Just because of the way it breaks down. So how can you have week 1 be 3 hours?
Well, I was going to say too, there's another debate, even with neutral sites, there's some discussion on that because there's times, and this is multiple sports, where they may play a neutral site that's an hour away for both teams, but it doesn't make sense. They go play there, but they don't play somewhere in their backyard. And sometimes I don't understand how they decide where those teams are placed.
Yeah, and that's, again, bringing up softball, like this past year, Fairview was in the regional semifinals, and so were we. And if Fairview had won and we had won, we'd have been playing. Where do we even play, Keith? I forget where we played.
In
I don't even remember where we played. It was
like an hour and a half away.
It's like you're home away from home. Farther down. Okay, I got you.
Down, regional games. Either way, we could have played Fairview and been an hour and a half from home.
Yeah, I forget where
it was clear over the other side of Findlay.
And again, we talk about neutral sites, trying to be equal. So a couple of years ago when we watched the Eden Lima Central Catholic, or it was Eden, and was that Lima? I can't remember who it was. I think it was like a Lima team. It might have been a Lima Central Catholic. But anyways, they played at Donnell Stadium in Findlay. It was like a 20-minute drive for LCC. Mm-hmm. But for Eden, that's a haul from Eden to Findlay. So that's what I don't understand. I don't think there's ever a perfect answer, but I think we can definitely improve like on some of these locations.
And the thing that AJ mentioned right off the bat, when you talk about Bryan to West Holmes, 3 hours and 9 minutes, at some point safety comes into play. When you're traveling, you're driving a bus at 1 o'clock in the morning. You think about all the, and I'll say it, there's all the crazies that are on the road that late at night, especially on a Friday night.
You introduce weather into the picture too.
Yeah, and you travel, and you introduce weather, which this week is going to be decent, but you introduce bad weather, a deer on the road, that kind of thing. Plus, not to mention the crazies that could be out there drinking and driving at that time of night, because it could be 1 o'clock before they get home. You know what I mean? Depending on how long the game goes. So at some point, safety's got to become a factor. Not to mention that the bus driver is getting tired at 1 o'clock in the morning. Maybe drove a bus route in the morning before school, and now they're driving to school, the team to the 3 hours and 9 minutes away.
Well, the bus driver is going to have a minimum of over a 6 hour round trip here, not including time at the game.
You throw on probably another 3 hours. So you got almost 9 hours tied up and just traveling there, watching the game, and coming back.
Right.
So long day for Brian for sure. Yeah. But definitely interesting to talk about. So we'll move on to the next hot take. A couple more here. This is Antwerp's last chance. So we've kind of talked to. We know Antwerp is a very senior heavy class this year. They've really put on one heck of a run over the last couple of years, have dominated the GMC. They still got a share of the GMC title this year as well. I personally think, I think this is it. If Antwerp's going to do something, they lose a lot of talent after this season. Not to say that Antwerp won't be good, but this isn't very often where you get class. And we talk about this for all schools where everyone goes in these spurts, and this is the peak of where Antwerp is. They've got all the talent. They've got all the coaching. Now is the time if they're going to make something or if they want to do a run. I think this is the year. So what are your guys' thoughts?
Just objectively, when you lose that much senior talent and senior leadership, it's going to be a big thing. Obviously, you've got a ton of talent, but the leadership, those guys have been playing for a long time. They've been the leaders of that team, and you're going to lose all of it right off the top. And that's going to absolutely devastate the flow of how things work out next year. Even if they have more talent coming in, it's going to be hard for them to all find their little niche and place to fall in line. And it's going to be really hard for Antwerp to develop something next year. Not saying they can't do it, but it's so hard to lose that much and bounce right back. Not every team's a Liberty Center that can lose half their talent and still have 65 other guys that can come right back and do just as well. I
think I counted 13 seniors on their roster, and I don't know, 80 to 90% of those guys play significant minutes and really, really, truly contribute to the Archers.
Yeah. But we talk about this for a long time. Last chance for the Archers. We're obviously Antwerp has one of the better teams in the region here this season. So I'm personally not overlooking that. Coach Hale's done a great job.
Oh yeah.
Antwerp has a chance to go to state, possibly could win state. I mean, they have that talent. They just need to put everything together in 2023 and not worry about 2024. Okay, we're going to close the book on 2023, looking into 2024, which is what this question is. Less than 10 years ago, Antwerp does not have a football program. So is this Antwerp's last chance? I would assume they've already had their last chance and already went through all this. So this is one of those, as Logan said, this is one of those classes that come around once every 10, 15 years.
It's a generational class for that school.
Are you going to have this amount of talent back next year, the year after? Probably not. But who's to say in 4 or 5 years that a class similar to this doesn't come through? I mean, nobody really knows. But is this their last chance?
I guess it depends on what you mean by last chance. Last chance.
I'm assuming that it's like a shot for either a regional title or a state semifinal or state championship.
Right.
I think this is the year you do it because, I mean, you look at some of the athletes like Carson Altimus. You think of area generational talents for teams.
Yep.
I think of like DJ Newman for Archbold. Carson Altimus, good 3-sport athlete. Landon Brewer, another kid from Antwerp. You could go on and on of all these schools, but this right now, Antwerp's got all the pieces to the puzzle. They just got to put it together, and I think this is the year that they have to do it because a lot of those pieces, I hate to say it, they do leave next year, but that's not to count them out for future. I mean, I would say within the next couple of years, I would say.
It may not be their last chance, but it's their best chance.
Right.
Yeah, very well said. Yes, I like that a lot.
And the sad thing is, I guess it's not sad, but the talent that Antwerp has had the last 3 years, we'll say, and they've just been blowing people out. Say 10 or 15 years from now, Antwerp has all these records on the board. You're going to see some of these kids' names up there and realize a good amount of their games they did not play in the late third to fourth quarters.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And they're still going to have all these numbers that are eye-popping on the record book in the school. And you're like, these guys probably didn't play a quarter of their games.
Yeah, that's
so.
That's huge, and you take that into account when you go to conference, all conference honors and stuff like that. Like, he put up, he's through for 2,000 yards. That's awesome. But this guy over here threw for 3,000 yards. Well, yeah, but he only played 2.5 quarters.
Right. Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so, but yeah, like I said, I think this is Antwerp's best chance.
Yep.
Right now.
All right, let's move on to the last hot take here. Liberty Center puts a running clock on everyone in the region.
I'll start off. I don't think that's true. I could be very wrong given how great they are, but I think like a team like Coldwater, I don't think they're going to have a running clock against them.
They did last year.
It could be, but Coldwater is a little bit different this year.
Well, absolutely, but I'm just
and everything. So
the thing is, they would looking at the bracket. Obviously Liberty Center is up there. Coldwater is in the bottom bracket. We talked about some of those teams.
Yeah.
I think that they could possibly do it. But I think if they could do it all the way up until the regional finals, because whoever they play in the regional finals, whether it be Archbold, Coldwater, Eastwood's another good team. There's a lot of good teams in that bottom. Edison's a 2 seed. I think they could possibly do it all the way up until that point, because in their half of the bracket,
Well, they start off with Elmwood, which I think right there, that I agree that one will probably be a running clock if it's anything like what I expect.
Oakwood, Liberty Bend. I mean, some of those teams in that top bracket where Liberty Center is, it's pretty weak if I'm being honest. So very well it could be possible up until that point. But go on with yours, AJ.
Oh, those first 3 games or whatever could very well be running clocks. But I think whoever you play in regional finals, I mean, you're getting to the point where the teams are just getting more and more evenly matched. And I think to expect that is setting yourself up for failure, because the second that that's not happening is when you're going to start getting down on yourself. And, that's a big thing going to the playoffs here that Liberty Center is going to have to remember is teams are going to start competing against you. As you get closer to state, they're going to get closer and closer games, regardless of how good you are and how great you've played this year. We play playoffs for a reason.
Yep.
And you're going to have to remember, like what Coach Mickey said, they're going to beat you on a few plays here and there, and you can't get down on yourself when that happens. You just got to bounce right back and keep fighting, because it's a playoff game that you've got to win. And to say that it's always going to be a running clock, that's a dangerous statement to make for your own morale.
Yeah, I don't know if it was a Liberty Center person that said it, but
yeah. But to think that going in,
but yeah, I agree with you, AJ, and I was going to bring up what Coach Mickey said also. You get down to that point, somebody's they're going to get a play on you, right? And that's where you're going to have to. That's where Coach Muller's going to have to really keep him reeled in and say, "Listen, they're basically say the same thing that Coach Mickey said just a little bit ago. Hey, they're going to get one on you. Don't freak out. And it was kind of, in my opinion, it was kind of the Elmwood game.
I was just going to say, we know that the Liberty Center's battle test. A lot of those kids that played in that game last year in the regional final of Elmwood Liberty Center, those kids were battle tested, because that game was neck and neck, and Liberty Center did not flinch. They just kept on going out there. They'd have a mistake or a turnover, but they did not flinch.
Yeah, and that was a battle. One of the best games I've seen in a long time. And they kind of got smacked in the mouth a little bit there in that game and was able to respond. And that's going to be the thing, that they really haven't been battle tested really this year. So how are they going to respond when they do get battle tested?
Keith,
you guys pretty much said everything that could be said. There's really not much more to say. I mean, puts a running clock on everyone in the region. It's 50-50, but I mean, they're playing like they can. Let's just put it that way.
All right. Well, we're going to go ahead. We'll wrap things up for the hot takes again. We appreciate BSN for sponsoring that segment. Again, I usually put out on Sunday evenings. Just go ahead and send in those hot takes. We appreciate them every week, and there's a lot of good things to talk about. So we're going to take a break to hear from our sponsors, and we'll be right back.
Northwest Ohio Basketball hosts premier basketball tournaments for boys in grades 3 to 8 in the area. Upcoming tournaments are right around the corner. Give them a call today at 419-283-5296 or check out their website at nwoball.com. The Thunderdome is your local indoor softball and baseball facility offering private lessons, turf infield, batting cages, and pitching machine rentals, even offering a golf simulator. Located in Archbold, Ohio. Give them a call today at 419-906-3643. Nicely Rentals and Storage is your go-to venue for graduation parties, birthdays, weddings, and more. Also offering vehicle storage, table and chair rentals, and U-Haul equipment. Located in Ayersville, Ohio. Give them a call today at 419-439-6177.
Trueland Equipment and Salesman Lauren Brown are your go-to for John Deere equipment in Archbold, Ohio. Mowers, compact tractors, skid loaders, and more. Your sales expert on commercial turf and CCE sales. Give Lauren a call today at 419-445-1565.
Back on the NWO Sports Podcast, and we are looking at game predictions, and we'll give a pretty good breakdown of each division and region, and we'll kind of go from there. So I'll kick things off. We're going to look at Division 3, Region 10. We're looking at the 9-seed Defiance, 7-3, at the 8-seed Bay, 8-2. According to Drew Pasture, Defiance is given a 62% chance to win, and by 5 points. Looking at Bay, Bay has played a pretty weak schedule throughout the year, rated number 75 in Division 3, compared to Defiance's strength of schedule, rated at 15 in Division 3. Defiance has been a team, they've been battle-tested the entire year in the Western Buckeye League, and that's a common theme you'll find. All these teams that played in the Western Buckeye League, in their respective division, there you have like a top 20 to 25 strength of schedule. So it just goes to show how tough that Western Buckeye League is. But at the end of the day, I think if Defiance can play quality second halves, we know they've kind of struggled here as of late. If they can do that, and when they can play like the Defiance at the beginning of the year when they were red hot, I think they take this one. So for that, I'm going Defiance and the Bulldogs.
Valid points, Logan. I originally took Bay when Logan sent everything out this morning, and I usually go through, do my picks. Hey, Bay. Then throughout my day, travel, stuff goes through your head. Then, as Logan said, hey, Defiance, they struggled down the stretch. Mind you, Defiance has to get up every single Friday night, basically, for every game in the WBL. There is no off days in the WBL. So I'm thinking, man, they're battle tested. They have a long bus trip. They did it last year, came through, and I think they may have scored the most points they did all season, if I remember back. So then changed my pick. So I'm taking Defiance. I think Coach Cooper is actually, I hate to say, a sigh of relief to get out of the WBL into the playoffs. But to me, I think Defiance wins this one and wins it pretty handily, honestly.
Yeah, you kind of said it, Logan and Keith. Talking about Defiance has been kind of struggling towards the later half of games in the later half of the season here. I think they're still able to come out and win it because they are battle tested, but they do need to play good football. They can't come out and just say, "Well, we're battle tested. We've played harder than they have, and hope for the best." You're gonna have to come out and play well. Tough matchup here.
Yeah.
So, by the way, pick. I'm going with Defiance.
Yeah, I'm going with the Bulldogs. I agree with you guys. I think Defiance is going to have to play, though. They can't come out and kind of get that's the second half get away from them. If they do, they're gonna be a one and done team.
Who's your pick, Tony?
I picked Defiance.
And Bryce and Matthew, they both had Defiance, so Defiance across the board. Let's look at the next game. Looking at Division 4, Region 14, and that's number 11 seed River Valley, 4-6, at the number 6 seed Van Wert, 7-3. Van Wert is given a 90% chance to win, and by 23 points, according to Drew Pastor. Van Wert, they're getting things back on track now. They've really been controlling the football with no turnovers, which is key. We saw a stretch there where they're kind of turning the ball over a lot. But now they're just starting to let quarterback Brylan Parker do Brylan Parker things. And by that, I mean letting the All-Ohio running back from a year ago run the ball at the quarterback position. It just seems like he's more comfortable doing it that way. And he's been getting close to 30 carries a game, and he's been doing really well for the Cougars here in the last half of the season. River Valley is no slouch by any means. Their 4-6 is pretty deceiving because they stood toe-to-toe with a lot of quality teams, or they've knocked them off. Week 3, they lost to a Division 3 8-2 Tiffin Columbian team. They lost 45-56. Week 7, they beat an 8-2 Shelby team. In Week 9, they lost closely to a 7-3 Galleon team, 35-42. With all that being said, I'm going with Van Wert and the Cougars. I think they get the job done. With that game being at home, too, that's a very nice facility. They have the brand new turf as well. I think as long as Brylan Parker takes care of the ball and they continue to produce, I'm going Van Wert.
Yeah, I took Van Wert. Had a little mid-season slump there, back-to-back losses, I believe. And since that, as Logan said, Brylan Parker, hey, do Brylan Parker things. Yeah. Just do it. No reins.
Just let it
do your thing. Just play football.
Yep, exactly.
Backyard football, have at it, and we'll see what happens. And Van Wert's playing very well. So taking the Cougars.
Yeah, I think Van Wert's definitively the better of the two teams here as long as they play good, clean football. So I'm going to go with Van Wert.
I'm going to take Van Wert as well. I just think that being the home team is going to help them out in the playoffs here, this first round.
And Bryce and Matthew both had Van Wert, so Van Wert across the board again from all of us. Next game, we're looking at number 9 seed Wauseon, 6-4, at the 8 seed St. Mary's, 6-4. St. Mary's is favored in this one, according to Drew Pastor, given an 85% chance to win and by 19 points. Looking at St. Mary's, they're one of the hottest teams around right now. We talked about it last week with Michael Hearn as well. He knows them better than anyone else. They started their season off, they were 0-4, but have since they've rattled off 6 wins in a row, and they've been outscoring opponents 244-77. So that's unbelievable. They play a mean physical brand of football in the wing tee, and they love to run it similar to that of what Wauseon just saw last week against Liberty Center. Wauseon, on the flip side, they've had their ups and downs throughout the season, and it's crazy to say, but their schedule is actually, it was much easier playing in the NWO than the WBL. So typically when people think about the NWO, they think of it as a gauntlet, but it's nothing compared to what the Western Buckeye League was this season. Wasion's strength of schedule in Division 4 is ranked at number 40 compared to St. Mary's number 9. That's number 9 in the state in Division 4. So St. Mary's has played a tough schedule. And Wauseon lives or dies by the pass and will rely a lot on quarterback Trey Parsons and Tyson Rodriguez at wide receiver. I think just because of the similarities between St. Mary's and Liberty Center, I like St. Mary's in this game. I think St. Mary's goes out. They're a very physical football team. I think Wauseon struggles with that. I think at times Wauseon likes to they like to throw the ball. I feel like, not saying that they're not physical, but I don't think they like the contact like some of these wing T teams do. So I'm going St. Mary's.
Yeah, I'm taking St. Mary's as well. And last week you guys were talking when we had Michael here, which was a blast, by the way. He actually said, he called me after their game. He said at one point in time there was a muff punt. I forget who he said they played, but St. Mary's actually had possession of the ball for 18 minutes outside of a couple seconds on a muff punt. So they literally had the ball for the basically entire first half. So they said, hey, you can't score if you don't have the ball. And
Amen.
St. Mary's, St. Mary's playing old school football, like similar to Liberty Center, just basically held the ball for close to 18 straight minutes.
Jeez.
And some more Michael Hearn stats here. Thank you, Michael. St. Mary's is 25-3 all time at Grand Lake Health Systems Field. They have 2,000-yard rushers for the first time since 2016.
Wow.
So one has Colton Mayberry, 1,300 yards, 15 touchdowns. Dominic Osborne, 1,059 yards, 6 touchdowns. Yep. Riders 5-0 in the playoffs.
And what again was that record at home for them?
25-3.
And Defiance was one of those this year. So
yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah. On the season, they have 2,997 yards rushing, 36 rushing touchdowns. Passing yards, 192. That's not the game. That's for 10 regular season games combined.
Wow.
That makes me think of one of the guys I played football with at Findlay. He would go run the rock and he would scream it, just banging his head. That's one of those scenarios right there. Run that rock, baby.
Wow. One last, according to him, Michael Hearn nerd stat. St. Mary says not played a NWOLAL team ever, with the exception of Defiance. But Defiance in 1955 was not a member of the NWOAL. Thank you, Michael Hearn.
Wow. The more you know.
Yes. So yeah, St. Mary's are basically, we said, they're the Liberty Center of our south, just outside our south coverage area. But they're just going to run the ball left, run the ball right, run the ball up the middle, and run the ball right, left, and up the middle repeatedly throughout the game.
So who's your pick?
St. Mary's, the Rough Riders.
Yeah, given all of those stats there, I don't think I can dispute that one. I had already had my pick set at St. Mary's, but I think they're a better team than 6-4. They've been playing very well, especially in the later half of the season. They're firing very well right now.
Yeah, I looked at their schedule. The 4 losses came to St. Henry was the first game. Then Salina, 8-2 team, Defiant 7-3 team, and Wapakoneta an 8-2 team. And then they got their things together and put together some wins and big wins to boot. Put up a lot of points. I don't think Wasion's going to be able to stop them. So my pick, St. Mary's. No apostrophe.
Yeah, no apostrophe. That's right. Bryce had Wauseon and Matthew had St. Mary's. And as I alluded to earlier, Bryce's pick, he's a man of the people, as he wanted me to say. So you'll notice all these teams are all the local teams that we cover. So he did not go against any of the local teams. So Bryce is definitely supportive of all the teams in the area.
And the people. Last year was Archibald. Archibald
that's
across
right.
the board.
Bryce was the Archibald man.
Yeah,
Jeez, Archibald fans love Bryce. So last year, I think Delta fans loved Tony. Yeah, Tony was on that Delta train. So let's move on to the next game. We're looking in the same division and region. The 10 seed Napoleon, 5-5, at the 7 seed Bellevue, 5-5. Bellevue is favored in this one, according to Drew Pasture, given a 40% chance to win and by 4 points. Napoleon, similar to St. Mary's in this region, has turned their season. They've basically turned it around. They started off 0-4, and they're finished the season riding sky high, going 5-1, and they actually gave themselves an opportunity for a conference title of the Northern Lakes League in the Cardinal Division. I love the resilience of the athletes and the coaching staff and their never give up attitude. We talked about the Napoleon Southview game. They were down, I believe, 20-0 at halftime. They came back, fired off 14 points. They really wanted that one. This game is going to lie in the hands of quarterback Owen Espinoza. The reason being, he's got to deliver the ball to his talented receivers. He's got guys like Rubenstein, Wood, Hall, Dietrich. He's got to do it without turning the ball over. So this game, we know that Napoleon can run the ball, but I think they really shine on offense when they utilize those talented receivers, and he can deliver the ball without any turnovers. If Owen Espinoza plays a good game, Napoleon wins this. I think it's all going to rely on him, and I'm really pulling for him as well. Bellevue, they faced a local Northwest Ohio team this season earlier, and that was Wauseon, and they actually beat Wauseon 26-3 in week 2 of the season. So a little sample of how do teams kind of compare. We've obviously followed Wauseon, but how does this team compare to a local team? Bellevue has also been battle tested this season. They've played the 12th toughest schedule in Division 4, so another team that has been really battle tested. I like Napoleon. That's my pick. I'm going with them. I'm believing in Owen Espinoza. I'm believing in Coach Swery. I think those kids are going to get it done. I think they're going to go into Bellevue and they're going to walk away with a win.
I'm with you, Logan. My pick is Napoleon. And anytime you have the just lack of a better word, superstar talents of Trey Rubenstein on your team, offensively and defensively, you always have a chance to win. And Napoleon's playing fantastic here. They fell behind last week, 20-0, rallied back, just fell short. But Coach Swery has Napoleon playing fantastic. So taking Wildcats.
Yeah, I don't have much more to add to that for Napoleon here. I think they're doing well. So outside of last week, which they even bounced back, which says some volumes. When you get down 20-0, it's very easy to it's very easy to shut down. But for them to bounce back and only lose by 6, that's great. Says great volumes about you. So I'm gonna go with Napoleon. Going with Napoleon for this game.
I'm honestly I'm pulling for the Wildcats, but I went in and did some looking around at Bellevue and looked at who they've lost to. Their 4 losses were to the number 1 team in Division 5 in the region, Perkins, or in Division 4, sorry. And then then they lost to Edison, they lost to Huron, and to Tiffin Columbian. Tiffin Columbian's Division 3. I was just kind of looking there. I tell them all these teams were in the playoffs, and all ranked fairly high in the playoffs. So I'm going with Bellevue, guys.
And Bryce and Matthew. Bryce had Napoleon. Matthew had Bellevue. So we're split on that one. Next game, still looking at Division 4, Region 14. We're looking at number 13 seed Bryan, 5-5, at the 4 seed West Holmes, 8-2. West Holmes is favored in this one, according to Drew Pastor, given an 85% chance to win and by 19 points. Bryan, they've had their ups and downs this season. They have a lot of talent on their offense, and they've thrown up big points on the offensive side of the ball this season. We know their defense has been questionable at times, but Bryan this season, I looked, has 0 wins this season over a team with a winning record. West Holmes has played a schedule of primarily D2 and D3 schools and are riding a 6-game win streak into the playoffs. I think for the sheer fact of West Holmes has played a tough schedule, Bryan's shown a lot of inconsistencies. I think West Holmes is going to take this one, so I'm going West Holmes.
Yeah, you stole the words from my mouth, Logan. Bryan playing good at times, but kind of like a roller coaster, up and down, offensively and defensively. I really don't have too much more to say. West Holmes pretty much dominated their schedule and their league. Taking West Holmes.
Yeah, Bryan's kind of got everything stacked against them going into this week with the long bus ride. They're playing West Holmes, which is a tough matchup to begin with. They've played D2, D3 schools. That's hard to compete with because they're battle tested. As battle tested as you're going to get in week 1 against the number 4 seed. So I feel bad for Bryan. I really hope they can pull one out. but I don't see it happening here. So I'm gonna go with West Holmes.
That's a good point too. I forgot about the bus ride. I said I think 9 hours earlier. It's got to be more than that because the bus ride to and from there is 6. The game itself lasts 2 or 3. That you usually get there about 2 hours earlier. Yep. So let's just run that real quick.
11 hours.
Yeah. So that's going to be a long day for the Golden Bears.
Yeah, and it's just, again, I'd say the same thing. It's a long day for the kids. Long bus ride. You're going to have to get out. They're going to have to get out of school at 1 o'clock to get there in time. You know what I mean? At least
to stay on schedule, right?
Yeah, to get there at the same time that they normally get there and go through the normal warm-ups. But they're going to have to do a little extra stretching after being on the bus for 3 hours. So
that's, not to elaborate on your guys' point, but that's a whole nother thing. Like, you play on a Friday night, you have a routine. Most of your bus trips really are probably less than an hour. You get on the bus, do you take a nap, you don't take a nap, you fall asleep, you wake up, you're groggy, now you're not focused. It's just just a whole nother bunch of stuff just thrown in the mix that you don't deal with.
Right. Your normal Friday night probably consists of getting out of school, getting with a couple of friends, going to grab a bite to eat, getting back to the school, getting on the bus, going. They're going to leave the school at 1 o'clock. Are they going to grab a bite to eat for the game? Are they going to get them? They're going to be fed on the way down there.
Yes, that's a big question too.
And then on the way home, obviously at 10 o'clock at night, now the kids are going to be hungry. They're going to want, you know what I mean? It's just unfortunately for Brian, I just don't think they're going to have enough to compete with West Holmes. So I'm going West Holmes as well.
Yeah, you want to try to keep things as similar as you can going into playoffs, and this is the complete opposite of that. You're pretty much taking every normal you've had all season, just throwing it right out the window, and that's going to be a devastating thing for any of these teams that travel more than 2.5 hours. It's going to be rough.
And looking at Bryce's pick, a man of the people, he's going Brian. Matthew had West Holmes, so Bryce is the only one going against the grain.
Well, trust me, all of us are pulling for Brian, but
that's right. Yeah,
I just don't think it's going to happen
realistically here.
All right, looking at Division 5, Region 18, we're looking at the 16 seed Elmwood 3-7, traveling to the 1 seed Liberty Center 10-0. Liberty Center is favored in this one, according to Drew Pastor, given a 99% chance to win and by 49 points. Elmwood, on the other hand, they've struggled this season. They're coming off a region title berth actually last season, which we've talked about. They played Liberty Center last season. So a familiar opponent in terms of playoffs, but their best wins this season is Division 7 Eden 6-4 in Week 9 of the regular season. Liberty Center, they're the favorite to win this region, and they actually have a 59% chance to win the region. We've talked about Liberty Center. They're just a meat grinder. Anyone that comes in, especially at home too, that's a daunting task. And I'm going Liberty Center, and they win this one huge, and I believe this one is a running clock.
Yeah, Hayden Wickard and Mason Oliver are walking out with the Elmwood Royals this Friday night. So, good win for Elmwood last week, but Liberty Center and Coach Mueller just has Liberty Center playing the best ball in years. I mean,
in my opinion, in the state.
Yeah, yep.
And that's to be determined, but they're playing fantastic, and I don't think anyone in the first 3 weeks really holds a candle to Liberty Center.
So taking the Tigers.
And Tigers for me too.
Well, I'm just definitely not the matchup we saw in the regionals last year, definitely. But, it's almost, to me, for Elmwood, you want to win every game, right? And you want to make the playoffs. But this is one of those kind of like, I'd rather have just won last week and, we just missed the playoffs. Well, you got to go play Liberty Center. The next game is kind of like,
It's a bittersweet moment for sure.
I was glad we won, but I'd rather end the season on a win rather than probably going to get spanked, taken out behind the woodshed. And you know what I mean? And again, guys, I'm going to bring it up. I'm looking at that region. Everybody from 12 on down is either 500 or worse. You got Highland Marengo sitting at 5-5 at 12, and you have Fredericktown sitting at 14 at 5-5. Oswego's 4-6, Spencerville's 3-7, Elmwood's 3-7. Those teams should be in the playoffs. You should not be in the playoffs if you haven't won. The guys that are 500, maybe, but you got a losing record. You've only won 3 games. You don't deserve to be in the playoffs.
I guess if my thought is like, okay, let's take Elmwood for example. They've historically, over the last few years, they've had a really good program. Regional final berth last year. What are your thoughts? Like, as a team, do you celebrate making? You used to celebrate making the playoffs. Obviously
time.
making the playoffs
That
was
was a big
always
deal.
coveted. Winning the conference title was always big. But do you celebrate that making playoffs at a 3-7 record? Like, you know what I mean? I don't know. Like,
So I guess I don't know, Logan. To answer your question, I don't know. But I look at Elmwood's schedule, and this is what we always talk about. So how the hell do you make the schedule? How the hell do you make the playoffs when? And this is a question for Drew Pastors, right? They lost to Evergreen, they lost to Eastwood, they beat Riverdale, who's a 4-6 team. They lost to Arlington, lost to Liberty Benton, lost to Lima Central Catholic. They beat Arcadia, who's 2-8, lost to Macomb. They beat Eden, is the only team with a winning record that they beat. And then they lost to Pandora Gilboa.
that just tells me too that the other teams below them obviously didn't have anything better. So
Well, and that's what I'm just like, how does the OHSAA justify putting a team like that in a playoff?
Against a team
I
like Liberty Center.
totally agree. It's just, to me, it just, you've again, a question for Drew. How do you get points when you don't beat anybody? The only team that they beat, in my opinion, that should have given them a lot of points, unless Riverdale knocked off somebody huge where they got points, something like that. The teams that they beat ended up beating somebody, but Arcadia won only 2 games.
right.
The chances of
Not
knocking
getting any
off
second level points to that team.
and so how do you get enough points to be rated 16 in the, it's just, I don't know. It's just,
Hey, fun fact for you. I actually did some digging into the Harbin point system.
Yeah.
Did you know there used to be a third level of points way back in the 70s when it first rolled out? So first round was you got points for beating that opponent. Second round points, which it still is, you get points for that opponent beating those opponents. The third round used to be the team that you beat and the teams that they beat. And the teams that they beat. So I'm trying to think. So say for instance, Tenora beat Ayersville. So that's your first round points. And then Ayersville goes out and beats Antwerp. That's your second round. So the teams that Antwerp beat, that's your third round. Wow. And then obviously you can understand how it was stopped after just a couple of years. But they attempted that for 2 years. I'm like, holy cow, that's unreal.
Yeah, nowadays that's nothing, but back then, my gosh, that would be
think about that without computers.
Like as I say, now you have computers, you can run different algorithms, so it does it for you. But could you imagine trying to keep track of all that and everything straight? But yeah, that was just a fun little fact about the Harbin point system.
That's pretty neat.
If they want to do a third level of points, I could see them doing like, who are you playing and losing to? And like, if Wasion's getting beat by Liberty Center, but Liberty Center's just smoking everyone, I could see there being some minor points gained there if you're doing a third level. But to do the third win, it's like trying to figure out who your relation is, like 3 cousins away.
It's like what's that movie with Leonardo DiCaprio? Like where he's jumping in the dreams or whatever. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, Inception.
Yeah, it's like points and inside of points inside of points inside of points. I'm like, oh my goodness. I read that and I said I couldn't believe they were trying to do that back in the 70s. So
a third round point, well, like you said, it wouldn't be a bad idea if you're going to give it to them, like kind of based on it's the same thing as schedule ranking, basically.
Yeah.
But if you like Archbold, their only loss was to Liberty Center. You would think that you could get, you probably get some points based on that one loss being to whoever it was. But if but then I guess my question would be like, let's say Liberty Center lost to Evergreen, or Archbold lost to Evergreen. That was their one loss, who hasn't won very many games. Does that hurt you then? Because that one loss was to somebody who didn't win.
Absolutely. And I think it should. If that's a game that you should have won, it could potentially hurt you. But it also kind of rewards teams that go out and want to play the best, but may not make it there that year. We talked about Tenora's record at 6-30 or whatever it is against Liberty Center. That's a game that they want to play against Liberty Center. At least when I was there, we looked forward to that game, whether it was a win or a loss. It was still a fun game to play. It was physical. It kind of tested where you were at that year, and it could potentially gain you some value down the road going to playoffs. But the way it's set up right now, you chalk it up to a loss. So I don't blame people for wanting to get out of that, because all it is, for lack of better words, it's a point farm for Liberty Center to just keep rolling in points, because Tenora's beating a lot of teams. Their worst season is like 7-3, so they're getting tons of wins. So they're getting a lot of secondary points. Tenora's never getting anything from Liberty Center.
Right.
But if they had that, it could potentially be a little better.
We're gonna roll things back in because we got a lot of games to get into. We could talk about that all night long, but Let's move on. So a couple other picks. So everyone picked Liberty Center, including Bryce and Matthew. Next game, 14 seed in Fredericktown, 5-5 at the 3 seed, Archbold 9-1. Archbold is favored in this one, according to Drew Pasture, given a 99% chance to win and by 42 points. Fredericktown, they've played one of the weaker schedules in Division 5 with the 66th toughest schedule out of 106 in the division. Their best win is over a Division 5 4-6 Centerburg team. Archbold, they've played the 12th toughest schedule in Division 5. The Blue Streaks know what it takes to play some of the better teams around, obviously playing the number 1 seed in the region in Liberty Center. But there's plenty of talent on the offense, defense, special teams. I talked about them earlier. I think they're one of the most complete teams in this region. But at the end of the day, I think they take care of business, and I think Archbold has a pretty good shot at making it to the regional finals. So I'm going Archbold.
Agree with everything Logan said. Taking Blue Streaks and actually providing that both Archbold and Coldwater do win, that could be one of the better second round matchups in the whole state.
Right.
Yep.
Not looking ahead for the coaches, which kids don't do that. Don't look ahead. But on our perspective, we can look ahead, and providing both teams do win, which they should. It's going to be an intriguing matchup. But taking the Streaks.
I'm just going to say it right now. I'm going with Archbold from here on out until they get to that regional finals game, because I want to see a Liberty Center Archbold matchup in regional finals. I think it would be an awesome environment to be a part of. I think it would be a good game. It's always hard to win against a team twice, so it could be closer. I don't know that Archbold comes out on top in that regional finals game, but it could be a lot closer. I'm just going to go with Archbold here. Enough said.
Yeah, this is an easy one. Archbold all the way.
And Bryce and Matthew both had Archbold. Looking at the next one, Division 6, Region 22, we're looking at the 16 seed Lakota 5-5 at the 1 seed Columbus Grove 8-2. Columbus Grove is favored in this one, according to Drew Pasture, given a 99% chance to win and by 41 points. Lakota has played the 72nd toughest schedule in Division 6 out of 106 teams. They rattled off 2 wins to end the season against an 0-9 St. Joe Central Catholic and a 2-8 Woodmore. Columbus Grove, we know what Columbus Grove's about. They're tough as nails, and again, they beat Bluffton last week, and Bluffton found out it's nearly impossible to come away with a win at Clymer Stadium. So Grove is playing some of the best ball in the area in Northwest Ohio. They ride a 7-game win streak into the playoffs. I'm going Columbus Grove.
Taking Coach Schaefer and Columbus Grove. They're going to be a tough out. I think they're playing as good as anybody. So, Bulldogs.
Yeah, I'm going with Grove on this one.
Same here. This is another easy one. Columbus Grove all the way.
And Bryce and Matthew both had Columbus Grove. Looking at the next game, and we will be at this game this week. That's the 10 seed Winford 6-4 at the 7 seed Tenora 7-3. Tenora is favored in this one, according to Drew Pasture, given a 66% chance to win and by 7 points. I'm actually really excited about this matchup because I know Winford's head coach. I actually played with him at Findlay, Coach Kyle Skidmore. He's a great guy. And actually, I've already been texting him as soon as I found out Tenora was playing him. So, and Kyle he was a great defensive lineman. He's a great person, and I know 100% fact that he will have that Winford program and he'll run it the right way. So Winford will be a tough team. They've got 2,000-yard rushers coming into the game. On the flip side, Tenora, they faced more adversity than any other team in the area this season. On top of that, they've played the 17th toughest schedule in all of Division 6. Their defense, they're riding 3 consecutive shutouts to end the regular season. Their offense is really peaking at the right time with quarterback Dominic Graziani. He showed leaps and bounds of growth in the last few weeks. I know that some of the teams haven't been as tough as the beginning of the season, but it's good to see him not make any mistakes like we were seeing earlier on. He's making his reads and his progressions, and he's been doing a very nice job. And then you have the running back pair of Geisinger and Gus Weiler. They've been a staple on that offense. I think this game's close, but I think Tenora comes away with it, so I'm going Tenora.
Taking the Rams also. And the last time Tenora played Winford, that gentleman right there was on the field.
That's right. I actually played Kyle Skidmore. Actually, I played Kyle in high school, and then I played together with him in college. So
2014. 17-0.
Yep, it was the regional final.
It was Ohio Northern.
That was 8 with the snow on the ground.
Yes.
That was the coldest game I played in. I believe that was
miserable.
I believe with the wind chill it was negative temps.
It was freaking freezing.
Yeah, exactly what you said.
It was. We were frozen before the game started. I can't imagine with you guys with no sideline coats on.
The coldest game I've ever been a part of.
Probably the coldest game we watched.
Yes.
But yeah, Rams are playing great offensively, playing great defensively. 3 straight shots on defense. Obviously, the competition towards the end of the year is really not what you look for, but you only play who's on your schedule. But yeah, nobody in the area playing better on offense, defense, special teams than the Tenor Rams.
Yeah, and talking about the adversity they faced, without going into crazy detail here, but they've had a rough a couple weeks there at the beginning of the season. Like week 3 was just a rough one emotionally. They've battled through that. They played Liberty Center to start the season and put up a good fight against them to begin with, and kind of got away from them. They've come from behind to win in final minute of a game, being down. So they've really kind of seen what it's like to come from behind or come from being down within a game, within the season. And a little plug here, I was able to produce a hype video for Tenora, which kind of highlights that.
It's pretty awesome.
That, don't ever give up, especially for the team like the Rams. They may get down, but they will definitely keep fighting.
Yeah.
So never count them out.
Nope.
I'm going with Tenora here.
Yeah, I'm going with Sonora as well. And Logan, you brought it up with Dominic showing his leaps and bounds, and AJ and I actually talked about that on the way over here. It may not have been against the quality opponents like the Liberty Centers or the Archbolds, but making good decisions is making good decisions. AJ said that on the way over, and I agree. He's starting to read, making a little better decisions, and hopefully he can continue to do that as we progress through the playoffs. Hopefully. So my pick was Tenora,
and Bryce had Tenora, and Matthew had Winford. Moving on to the next game here. 15 seed Paulding, 6-4 at the 2 seed Bluffton, 9-1. Bluffton is favored in this one according to Drew Pastor, given 99% chance to win and by 38 points. Paulding has arguably probably one of the best seasons of all time in their program, making the playoffs. They have a winning record in conference play, along with beating their county rival and Wayne Trace last week. Bluffton, they've played right with Columbus Grove last week and showed they can be a competitor in this region. Bluffton's defense has been phenomenal this season. We've talked about that multiple times throughout this podcast, but they have 7 shutouts. They've only given up 42 points all year. I think this one's a no-brainer. I'm going Bluffton. But, I think Paulding, you can't doubt them out, but I'm going Bluffton.
I'm with you, Logan. Taking the Pirates of Bluffton. Defense playing fantastic. Obviously, you go into Clymer Stadium, playing Columbus Grove. That's an intimidating venue there. But they gave Columbus Grove a good game, 14-7. But, Cinderella story, Paulding, fantastic for Coach Minzy and them. It's a programming building season. And unfortunately, I think it comes to an end this Friday.
Yeah, anytime you're playing a team that's only given up 40-some points in the entire season, that's going to be a rough one to go in there and play against. Enjoy the season that you've had this year, build upon it. You're going to be good next year. Speaking on Paulding, Bluffton's they're going to be a tough one to try to battle through, and it kind of speaks about the whole matchups of 15-1 or 15-2 kind of thing. But nonetheless, I'm going to go with Bluffton here.
Yeah, I'm going to go Bluffton too. I think you might be seeing the makings of a Bluffton Columbus Grove rematch as you get to
Potentially.
regional final.
Yeah, sure.
So Bluffton for me.
Bryce had Paulding and Matthew had Bluffton. Next game, we're actually going to look at Division 7 Region 26, and that's the 13 seed Arlington, 6-4 at the 4 seed Antwerp, 9-1. Antwerp is favored in this one according to Drew Pastor, given 78% chance to win and by 14 points. Arlington has shown glimpses throughout the year where they can compete with some of the best. They played a 9-1 Liberty Benton close. They only lost that game 30-34, and Liberty Benton's pretty good this year. Arlington, if they're going to have a shot, they're going to have to run the ball. We know that Antwerp has struggled against Tenor and Ayersville, and Ayersville obviously beat the Archers. Antwerp, on the flip side, they have extraordinary athletes. You've got Carson Altimus, wide receivers Brewer, Fuller, Winslow, Scholl. All those guys are excellent out wide. Along with, they got a couple of stud linebackers, Cyrus Gale, Reed Leachty. Antwerp's going to have to run the ball a little bit more than what we've seen during the regular season to keep defenses on their toes. I think if they can do that, and I think if they can stop the run for the opposing teams, I think Antwerp will have quite a bit of success in this region. So for that, I am going the Antwerp Archers.
Oh, boy. Yeah, I'm taking Antwerp. This is one of those games where, as we talked about, if you can keep the ball away from Antwerp and keep their offense over on the sideline with Coach Hale, Arlington, what's their strength of schedule, Logan? You said they're like 25th or 26th? something like that. Bizarre.
Yeah, that I'm
I
not
mean, it's
sure I can see.
higher than one would think. They're 6-4, Antwerp 9-1. Coach Hale just has to have the boys laser focused and not overlook because you see Arlington and
Arlington's 29th.
Okay, so
strength of schedule.
And just because you see Arlington and the number 13 seed by their name doesn't mean they're not a quality program coming into Antwerp. So, but yeah, Antwerp's got to be ready to play. But taking the Archers.
Yeah, well said for both of you guys. I'm gonna go with Antwerp here.
I'm going with Antwerp as well. Arlington's only beat one team that's had a winning record, so that was the first game of the season. So definitely, I think Antwerp's going to handle this one.
And Bryce and Matthew both had Antwerp. Looking at the next game, we're still looking at Division 7 Region 26. The 12 seed North Central 9-1 goes to the 5 seed Patrick Henry 8-2. Patrick Henry is favored in this one according to Drew Pastor, given 98% chance to win and by 33 points. North Central, they've made the playoffs in just 2 years. The varsity program has been in existence, which that's impressive. The Eagles have been resilient. They've been all season long. You know, we talk about distance in first round of playoffs. The Eagles have been doing this all year long in the regular season. And they've been producing week in and week out. They've got a really good player there in Joe Burt, running back, linebacker, leading the way. And the Eagles have played the 95th toughest schedule out of 110 teams in Division 7. Patrick Henry, they've shown they can still play, even without their star quarterback, Nash Meyer. The Patriots have played the 15th toughest schedule in Division 7. For them to have success this coming postseason, they've got to run the football, and they've got to do it well, with Houston Miranda being the focal point of that offense. If they can do that, I think they'll have some success. With that, I'm going Patrick Henry.
Well said, Logan.
Houston Miranda.
Yes. I mean, it's unfortunate that Nash Meyer was injured. It is what it is. You can't do anything about it. Patrick Henry is probably looking at a chance to actually go to state Final Four. He had to get through Antwerp more than likely, but still, this is one of those games where North Central, second year program, we had Coach Thompson on, fantastic. We had Coach Mickey talk about North Central and everything. Build your program. Basically, from hands putting the bricks one by one up. And the time has come for North Central. You guys have talked about it. Hey, we want to play the big boys. Well, you're going to go into Patrick Henry, and you're going to be playing the big boys, and here's a chance to pull your pants up and show what you're made of. All eyes will be on you. Taking Patrick Henry.
Yeah, this is a game where if North Central wants to gain some traction in the area, they're going to have to, I don't necessarily say they have to win, but they definitely need to put up a fight. They can't let Patrick Henry walk away with it. They're going to have to fight for it. And if they can do that, then maybe they do kind of solidify themselves in the area. I don't think it's going to matter. I think Patrick Henry is going to take care of business here. And like you said, Keith, I think they're looking at a potential, Final Four run. So a good Patrick Henry team. So I'm going with Patrick Henry.
Yeah, I'm going with PH as well. I just don't think North Central's got enough yet to stop a Patrick Henry team. So PH for me.
And Bryce and Matthew both had Patrick Henry. Next game is an interesting one. That's the 10 seed Ayersville 8-2 at the 7 seed Lima Central Catholic 6-3, which that game will be played at Lima Shawnee High School. Lima Central Catholic is favored in this one according to Drew Pastor, given 93% chance to win and by 26 points. Looking at Ayersville, they have one of the bigger and better offensive lines, and we talked about it earlier in the podcast, and one of the better rushing attacks in the area. You know, they have athlete Abe Delano. He's really stepped up here as of late, and he's taken more carries on with the recently injured running back Torrin Knieven going down. We even saw Ray Wolfram get involved in that backfield. Lima Central Catholic, they play the 8th toughest schedule in all of Division 7. Quarterback Carson Parker is the real deal. I've seen him play in person. Tony's seen him play in person. We see what he's capable of. Actually, you guys all have seen him play multiple times because I wasn't able to go to that game, but he is the real deal for Lima Central Catholic. He can pass and he can run. He's a jack of all trades. I think with LCC, they're actually going to be the dark knight in this region because having them at a 7 seed it's not doing them justice because they actually have the second highest percentage to win Region 26 at 22%, only behind Pandora Gilboa with a 24% chance. When have you ever heard the 7 seed having the second highest chance after running all these analytics and stuff on Drew Pastor to win the region? If Ayersville's going to have a shot in this game, they got to run the ball. They can't make any mistakes like Coach Mickey talked about before. Those mistakes are going to be magnified. If they can run the ball, they can control the clock, and they can keep it out of Carson Parker's hand, I think they have a shot in this game. But at the end of the day, I think I'm going to go Lima Central Catholic. But I wouldn't be shocked if this game is close, if Ayersville's able to control the clock.
We had Coach Mickey on, and trust me, he's one of those guys who want to strap the helmet on and strap the pads on. We all here would play for that dude in a second, like if we were much younger, of course, which we're not. But I mean, this is what we talked about earlier, keeping things normal. Now, I didn't do my research on this, which normally I would. I don't know how many times, because I know more than likely Lima Central Catholic probably plays most of their home games on Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, because they share with Lima Senior.
They share the stadium with Lima Senior. Now, I don't know how many games that Lima Central Catholic has actually played away from Spartan Stadium. So, a little bit out of their comfort zone. And Ayersville, they can pound the ball and pound the ball and pound the ball. Keep Carson Parker off the field is the key for Coach Mickey and Ayersville. If they can do that, I think they got a chance of an upset here. I'm pulling for Ayersville, picking LCC.
I'm kind of in the same boat there. I'm pulling for Ayersville, going with Lima Central Catholic. And my main justification here is I think Ayersville they're already a kind of one-dimensional team against a very quality opponent that might make you eat that a little bit. Yeah. And then with the loss of Torn Knieven, even that one-dimensional team goes very one-dimensional with Abe Delano and feeding some of the other guys the ball. But Abe Delano's obviously going to be your main running back to stop. And I think Lima Central Catholic's got the threats and the athletes to stop that from happening. So I'm Lima Central Catholic for me.
Yeah. Boy, I tell you what, I pull for Ayersville, and I got this gut feeling that if Ayersville wants to watch a film, go take Tenora's film from last year when they beat those guys.
Absolutely.
If they can get Carson Parker out on the run, like Tenora did last year, and make him move around and can contain him, don't let him run, but can contain him. Yep. Ayersville can do it, and with Brady Clark and those guys back there, the linebackers they have. They might be able to make it happen, because they got a good linebacking crew, kind of like Tenora does, and just set underneath and do the same thing Tenora did, and maybe pick off a couple of those underneath passes. I don't know. This is a tough one for me to pick, but I'm going to go with LCC, and it's only because the injury to Torn Knieven, I think, is going to affect them as they go into this playoff. But not
offensively, defensively as well. I mean, he was a heck of a stud on defense.
Absolutely, and I just think that's going to be a big break in the chain for him. So LCC for me.
Bryce had Ayersville and Matthew had Lima Central Catholic. Looking at the next game, 16 seed Montpelier. Oh, skipped one real quick. 14 seed Eden, 6-4 at the 3 seed Waynesfield Goshen, 10-0. Waynesfield Goshen is favored in this one, going according to Drew Pasture, given 90% chance to win and by 23 points. Eden, they've kind of stumbled here lately. They've had a couple bad losses to end the season. They had an 8-52 loss to a 3-7 Elmwood team and a 7-54 loss to a respectable Ottawa Hills team. Waynesfield Goshen has played the 98th toughest schedule out of 110 in Division 7. They do have a few quality wins. They have over an 8-2 USV Upper Scioto Valley team, 8-2 Elgin team, 6-4 Hardin Northern team, and a 6-4 Ridgedale team, which I think that's kind of interesting. How do you have the 98th toughest schedule when you beat 2 8-2 teams? That's beyond me.
Because they're all D7.
That could be too. Yeah, a bunch of smaller schools. Yeah. But I think Eden's just kind of in a slump. They cannot make any mistakes if they want to win this one. I'm going Waynesfield Goshen, but pulling for the Bombers.
Yeah, I think, Logan, you hit everything on the head there. Something, I don't know what's up with Eden's offense in the last 2 weeks. They just can't score. And if you can't score, you can't win. So,
and Eden's offense is the thing that drives that team.
Oh, yeah,
too.
Absolutely. That's the thing. It's like, you kind of scratch your head like, hey, what's somebody hurt or what's the deal there? But hate to pick against any Coach Bob Olin team, but taking Waynesfield Goshen.
Yeah, I'm going to go Waynesfield Goshen as well.
So am I, just based on what you just said, Keith. They're not scoring any points, and something has to have happened because they were throwing points up like crazy, 50, 60 points a game, and all of a sudden they scored 8 and 7.
Have an injury,
and they scored 8 against Elmwood. Yeah. Something and got beat up by Elmwood bad. So something's going on there. I'm going Waynesfield Goshen.
And Bryce, a man of the people, went Eden, and Matthew went Waynesfield Goshen. So last 11-man game here, and we're looking at the 16 seed Montpelier 7-3 at the 1 seed Hopewell Loudon 10-0. Hopewell Loudon is favored in this one according to Drew Pastor, given a 99% chance to win and by 40 points. Montpelier, again, similar to Paulding, has had quite the Cinderella season, returning to the playoffs since 1993. They've had one of the best seasons in the last 20 years. Coach he's got the locomotives on the right track. Hopewell Loudon is an elite team. They've got 2 impressive wins this season over a D6 8-2 Cary team, which we know Cary was just a state championship a couple of years ago. Cary's a smash mouth football team, and for them to go and take them on and beat them, that's impressive. And they also beat an 8-1 Tiffin Calvert team. So Hopewell Loudon means business. I don't think Montpelier's seen an opponent like this all year. I hate to say it, but I think Montpelier's Cinderella season comes to an end, and I'm going Hopewell Loudon. But pulling for the Locos.
Yeah, pulling for Locos. Like we said, we had Coach Robinson here. Great guy. Play for that guy any day as well. For Montpelier, I guess just soaking in and enjoy the atmosphere, because I think Hopewell Loudon's just going to pull away quick.
Yeah, it's kind of a bittersweet for Montpelier that, we've been talking the last couple of weeks whether they're going to make it or not. It was kind of questionable sitting at 7-3 whether they're going to make it. They do end up squeaking in at 16 seed, which is, great. Congratulations to Montpelier coming into playoffs. That's awesome to make playoffs. But the bitter part of that is you're going to be playing the number 1 Hopewell Loudon, and just going to be a nightmare to face off against them. So I'm going to go with Hopewell Loudon.
Yep, Hopewell Loudon for me. Pretty simple.
And Bryce, again, a man of the people, Montpelier, and Matthew had Hopewell Loudon. A couple 8-man games here we'll pick as well. Stryker 2-7 at Sebring, McKinley 2-6. I believe this is just a consolation team because the top 4 teams in the Northern 8 are in the playoff system that they have make it. So in this one, Stryker's coming off a big win last week, so I think they ride that, and I'm going Stryker this week.
Striker
for me.
And Matthew had Sebring McKinley. And then the last game, so this is the playoff game for 8-man, St. Mary Central Catholic 6-3 at Holgate 8-1. Holgate's only had 1 slip up this season against Toledo Central Catholic. I think Xavier McCord is going to do Xavier McCord things. I think Holgate wins this.
Holgate Tigers.
Holgate.
Go Tigers.
And Bryce and Matthew both had Holgate as well. So that concludes our playoff predictions. Closing thoughts, guys.
I just think it's going to be an exciting start to the playoffs. Teams just got to go out there and take care of business. Don't slip up.
Yeah, and for those teams that are, on the outside looking in as far as, matchups, the lower seeds going up against some of these dominant teams, enjoy it. Some of these guys, it might be the last time you ever touch the field, especially in playoffs here. You never know when that last game's coming now. So make sure you enjoy every moment of it, because you're going to miss it like crazy. You never get those days back. So go out there and have fun.
Yeah, it's my favorite time of year. Number 1, you got the best of the best playing against each other. Number 2, the teams that aren't in the playoffs, you get to see all these kids just travel together. You see all the school jackets just come walking in. Like, here comes 8 kids from Fairview. Here comes some kids from Defiance if they're out of the playoffs, for example. So, yeah, I like seeing that. Like, the kids just, hey, travel to a local game and let's just hop in the car and go check it out. So
supporting the local teams.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
Yep.
And I know it too. I brought up the question, do you celebrate making the playoffs with a losing record? I think at the end of the day, you throw that out the door because you made it. And, there's a lot of teams that are sitting at home right now. So you just got to make the most of it. Even if you are outmatched, go and have a good time. Take it all in, because for a lot of teams and players, they may not get the opportunity to play in some of these playoff games. So make the most of it and, just enjoy it. So
And the weather's going to be beautiful. So
it is, yeah.
They're supposed to be anyways. It's supposed to be warm.
Temperature-wise, yes.
It's supposed to be warm. It might be raining, but it's supposed to be
the
warm.
rain holds off. Yeah, so get out and watch the playoffs.
So, there's no excuse not to go watch and support your teams. Yep. So, well, that concludes our podcast, guys. We'd like to thank all of our sponsors: 3Chord, BSN Sports and Jimmy Garris, Bat & Stevens Body Shop, Tenor Rams Live, Jimenez Basketball Academy, Fairchild Family Chiropractic, NWO Basketball, The Drop Zone Pizzeria, Crystal Vasquez of Amerimaid Realty, Optimal Performance Fitness, Nicely Storage and Rentals, The Thunderdome, and Truland Equipment, and Lauren Brown. We'd like to also give a special thanks to Jeff Batt for allowing us to use his amazing new facility here at Bat & Stevens Body Shop for today's podcast. Stay tuned for the next NWO Sports podcast in the near future, and thanks for watching.